I want to be a knave.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to The World Tree Burns on Encounter Roleplay. Today, I am speaking for Will, apparently. He's unable to be with us, but he's got us all set up, and we're going to play anyway without him. Riodan is off somewhere in a haze or a stupor like he do. So welcome. I'm Dan Dillon. I'll be your Dungeon Master for this evening on The World Tree Burns. We'll be diving into some Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, and we're playing in the world of Midgard from Kobold Press. So why don't we go around and everybody introduce ourselves and our characters that we'll be playing tonight. Why don't we start with Tall Squall?
Hey, I am super happy to be here. I love Midgard. I'm pulling up all of my great Midgard lore and such and things because it is deep and vast, and our good friend Glaz, he's supposed to know about stuff like that. So I'm going to have to make sure that I've got some of it. And I am looking forward to seeing where this goes with such an interesting beginning that we had, and meeting up with new friends, apparently.
Mm-hmm. All right. Brings us over to Simply Jackson.
Hi, I am Simply Jackson, one of the new kids on the block here, and playing Tilly, our dwarf fighter. What'd you say?
You are a Joey.
What's a Joey?
That's a new kid on the block.
Oh, I got it. I'm sorry. I'm a little.
I'm sorry.
I would say I'm younger than that, but
I'm just gonna shut up now.
You are dating several of us right now, man. You got to stop.
Anyways, I'm super happy to be back. I went to BlizzCon last weekend, but look forward to coming back and role-playing again and getting back into routine. So I'm super excited to be here. And hi, everybody in chat.
Hooray. Hello, everybody in chat. All right, Scarlet Moth.
Hi, I'm Scarlet Moth. I'm an artist and cosplayer and lover of all things D&D. And I'm going to be playing Rowan, the Raven Folk cleric, whose accent is still really up and down. I'm sorry. It's coming straight from playing a very Celtic druid. I'm just trying to figure that all out.
No, it's all good. Loving it. And last but certainly not least, McLogan.
Hi, I'm McLogan, the most unsexiest D&D player. I'll be the opposite of Will. So I'm excited for tonight. Last week I was excited, and I've been telling people at work about this. I was like, I can't wait to introduce them to the fucking drunk hope that they have, and was so excited. And then Will took it away from me. Yep. I remember this, Will.
Yank the rug right out from under us.
Cloak will remember that.
I will remember that. I'm excited to play today, and if you guys don't know, I am playing Cloak, the lovable ranger. Always tells the truth. Doesn't do anything shady. Just do what he says.
Yep. No dark secrets from his past at all that are never going to come back on to anyone. It's fine. All right, so let us jump into it. Today we will pick up just a few hours after dawn on the waters of the river leading into Zobek from the north. There's a small keelboat. It's sail rigged to catch the wind to help drive it upstream against the current, and manning the helm is our plate armor clad dwarf reaver captain Tilly, and there in the bow of the boat, nestled into her hood and her robe against the chill spring wind blowing along the river, is Rowan, our raven folk. And you can see up ahead the walls of the city of Zobek. You can see a great hill in the center of the city with a fortress built on top, gray and imposing, a recent spring rain having washed across all of the buildings, leaving dark smears and stains running down the stone, but also giving it a sort of just a fresh, clean feeling. In addition to that, and it's not an unwelcome sight. It's a little different than the architecture of the cities you're used to from your homes in the north, and even from the remains of the kingdom of Krakovar to the north. You can see lots of half-timber construction with white plaster walls You see slate and tile roofs, some with wooden shingles, others with stone or pottery, and you can see that the river leads you into a bustling dock area where the river splits around a long island, and it looks like there are ships and barges docking on the outer side of the island, and you begin making your way toward those docks, looking for a place to tie up your boat. As you draw nearer, you can see that the population sort of massed along the docks is incredibly diverse. There are humans, there are many dwarves, there are, you see what look like even an elf here or there, which is almost unheard of in your homelands. In fact, the stories that you have read have been... have told you that the elves were mostly gone from Midgard, but there are rumors circulating these days that strange individuals of lithe grace with long pointed ears and wielding strange magic have begun walking the land again. So perhaps at least some of those stories are true. You can see burly stevedores unloading crates from barges and loading them up on wagons. And several of the dock workers kind of wave you away as you get close, somewhat grumpily, and they point you toward the southern end of what they refer to as the gullet, and you can find berth there for your boat. So you expertly pilot your craft down to the southern tip of the island, and you can see a few smaller open piers where you can bring your craft in and tie up to one of the wooden pylons there. And as you do, a sort of squat, pot-bellied human carrying a board with parchments laid on it, with little spectacles, half-moon spectacles perched on the end of his nose, with kind of a ruddy complexion to his cheeks, comes over and glances at you and says, "Yes, your name, please, miss?"
It's Tilly Ashbringer.
Mm-hmm. He dips his quill into the little inkwell attached to the board, and you can hear the scratch of the tip of the pen on the parchment. And how long do you wish to make your berth here?
Probably only a few days. I'm not too sure. We have a bit of a task on our hand, but we'll say maybe a day or two.
So he looks over your boat. It's relatively small. You don't really have, it doesn't look like you have any cargo to unload or any animals to deal with or passengers to speak of, anything like that. So he just sort of perfunctorily says, "Anything to declare to customs?"
Other than myself and my good ale, I'm bringing aboard.
When you mention the ale, he looks and doesn't see anything in the way of like an actual cargo shipment, so apparently is beneath his concern. So he just sort of and makes a little mark and says, "That will be 3 copper pieces per day of leaving your boat moored to the pier. Would you like to pay in advance?"
Are there other options to play? Do I have to pay in advance?
You needn't, but if the day rolls by and you're not up to date on your payments, there could be difficulties.
All right, I'll pay the 3. Will the price change if we're here more than 2 days?
No, indeed not.
All right, I'll pay for the 2 days. And then if we need to pay more beyond that, I'll come find you. What was your name, sir?
Aliens.
Aliens. All right,
I'm
I'll come find you
Dockmaster
if we need to. Dockmaster Aliens. And anybody will know you by name here, yeah?
Indeed. So he takes your coin and marks down next to your name that you have paid, and just sort of nods by way of farewell, and just kind of meanders on down the pier. And so you can get yourself tied up and step out onto the land of Zobek.
What manner of things were we meant to declare to customs?
Oh, I didn't realize you were standing so close, dear. Sometimes you get real close to personal quarters. I don't mind, but just let me know next time.
I'm
just
quiet
a little
as the
tap on the
grave.
shoulder.
Quiet as the grave, but...
I know this well. But seriously, there's a bunch of people here that have been trying to rob me. I just wanted to make sure. Sorry.
If someone tries to rob you, they'll have the end of my beak.
Aye, and more fangs for you to collect, yes.
And she just sort of snaps her beak.
Tilly's gonna like sniff into the wind and kind of smell anything that's extra carbs and potentially hoppy. That's probably the direction we need to go.
Feeling hungry? Or just trying to get your bearings? All right.
Oh, no. Both, I guess,
Okay.
but yeah.
Yeah, sure.
No.
So on the gullet, which is this long kind of thin island that is just sort of plopped into the middle of the river, sort of like a way overgrown sandbar. You can see warehouses on it, just a bristling of docks and piers on the northern side. And you can see not too far away, there's a stone bridge that crosses one of the little tributaries of the river there and leads you into the city proper. If you're looking for food or drink, it's probably going to happen over there. And if you know dock areas of cities, there should be plenty of offerings pretty close to the waterfront.
Now, DM, what did the vision of the White Raven tell me about what we should do when we find the heir?
It actually didn't tell you any specific course of action that you were to take. It told you that everything hinges on the south, and that you were to find the scion of the Osgrey line, and from there you're sort of on your own.
So it didn't say to kill him or anything like that. No, it did not. Okay.
Good point.
So we just have to find him.
That would have taken a turn.
All right, Tilly will tap Rowan on the shoulder. Are you hungry, dear?
I'm always famished.
I mean, we only had some dried jerky here and there, so maybe we can find you some fresh meat.
Fresh meat, something less salty. But
yes,
also,
a little bit parched.
Also, if we can find the whereabouts of the scion, if we can ask after, I'm not sure if he's a vampire or a dampier or.
Well, I'll tell you what, dear. If he's either one, I'm sure he stood out enough that if we head on into a tavern or a local spot, we can ask around, and somebody will know probably.
She said prophetically.
They stand out pretty well, I'm sure.
So, one thing that you've learned dealing with the Dampiers and the vampires' forces in the north is that if a Dampier wishes to pass for human, they generally can pretty well. When they interact with people, their nature will start to exert itself a little bit. They have that vein, if you will, of darkness and sort of their predatory nature that they can't ever fully hide for long, usually without taking some really extraordinary pains or magical assistance to do. But just at casual interactions, they can pass for human just fine. But you are correct that anyone that he's spent any real amount of time with, they're going to start to pick up on the fact that there's a wolf amongst the sheep.
Okay.
All right. So you turn your steps toward the city itself, and you kind of make your way through this just dense press and bustle of business and commerce happening along the gullet. The streets are full of porters carrying packages, grunting stevedores, teams of them manhandling massive, heavy cargo crates onto wagons and carts, and you make your way across a stout stone bridge that leads you into the dock ward of Zobek itself. And once you get there, you can. It looks a little more of a. Oh, what do we have there?
Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much for the donation. Is there anywhere where we have the text of that? Because I don't have access to it. We'll figure that out here in a second. Sorry, we're working a little bit of a deficit without Will running some of that for us. We'll figure it out. All right, as you get into the dock ward, you can see that you're more in the sort of city proper now. So there are buildings nestled close together. There are wide streets with people going about their morning business and beginning their day. You can smell the delightful scent of fresh-baked bread. You can catch the heady aroma of frying bacon and cooking sausage, wafting out of some of the nearby.
Tilly's patting her stomach and reaching back for Rowan. Tuck your bits in tight. Let's go quicker. Let's go.
I'm old. I'm very old. You know this. Just wait till one day you have creaky bones like me.
I hope that day never comes, but that's just between you and me. Let's go.
Oh.
All right. So, do you have any particular type of place you're looking for, or just any place with hot food and cold beer?
Pretty much the first one that looks like there's actually space at a table. Not overcrowded, because I know that Rowan probably won't handle a crowd that well, but definitely to get in quickly and seated, start scromping down. Because Lily can't think unless she's got food in her belly.
Fair enough. Let me check right quick here. All right. Well, I would say that the first place you see, which is right by the bridge, is a place called the Blackened Fish Tavern.
Perfect.
There's it's got a shingle hanging out front, and there's sort of this curved fish onto it, and half of it is just black, as if by fire or it was overcooked. And there are these stark little white eyes peeking out from the scorched black face and body. And you head inside, and it's a lively sort of place. It's not terribly overcrowded right now. It looks like most of the dock workers, who would probably be their regular clientele, have already headed off to work. So there are plenty of open tables, and you can see that they're not overworked and not over busy right now. So you settle in at a table, you and Rowan, and in short order, one of the servers kind of catches your eye, and when you give her an enthusiastic nod, she comes sweeping over, and she says, "Right then, what can I get the two of you?"
Well, I hope the sign isn't indicative of the type of food you serve here. Or the way you cook it.
She actually snickers at that and says, No, not at all. We've got plenty fine food. What would you prefer? We've got eggs, sausage, bacon on right now. We could do something a little more hearty if you're finding yourselves terribly of an appetite. I think we have some roasted venison from just last night. Still plenty good.
After you, Rowan, what do you like?
Anything greasy and meaty.
All right, I guess maybe your thickest slice of greasy bacon for Rowan.
Easily done. That's the only way we serve it. And so she takes your orders and bustles off toward the kitchen. And so you have a few minutes to sort of settle in and kind of...
Don't forget the ale.
She just kind of waves over her shoulder as she disappears into the swinging door into the kitchen.
Now I really want bacon, thanks, Dan.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty much my default mode. All right, so so you have a few minutes to kind of settle in and just kind of stretch back and let some of the knots that your muscles had tied into in the slightly cramped boat that you've spent so long in begin to loosen and work themselves out a little bit. And so if you guys want to, if there's anything you want to do, or if you just want to wait for your meal, no problem.
No, would there be any sort of entertainment potentially in this?
So you look around, and it looks like the sort of place that would certainly have entertainment. And indeed, there's actually a low stage in the center of the common room, but there's nobody on there right now. But I will say that you can see that the stage has a peculiar sort of like discoloration around the edges, like maybe something spilled on it constantly, or maybe someone had a show that involved something other than music and dancing and something like that recently. Looks a little odd. But there doesn't look like there's any sort of entertainment or anything happening right now, and so in short order, your beers and breakfasts are brought out to you, and the server just sort of smiles and goes on about her way, and she remains in sight most of the time. So if you need anything, she's available to you. So you have a fine meal. I would call it, it's solidly adequate. It's nothing great. The beer's okay. It's a little disappointing given what you're used to, but you have your skill and your rarefied tastes. What about Rowan? Does Rowan partake of beer or ale or anything like that?
She won't partake of any of the alcohol. She'll just sort of ask for some water and just nip at it.
Okay.
As she's having her meal, she's going to consult the bones.
Mm-hmm.
Just to figure out how close they are.
As Rowan focuses on her bones till he just pulls her other ale over. Oh, you're not going to drink it though, right? I'll just take that. Thank you.
No problem. I'll find a home for you. Don't worry. Yep. So go ahead and make me a wisdom check, please, Rowan.
Okay. Get me dice. So, wisdom, anything else, or is it just
a wisdom check?
That's going to be an 18.
18. All right. So you cast the bones, and you get. Looking at the way they sort of they fall onto the table and cross over one another, you're able to pull a few distinct impressions or images, which often come to you in the form of a word that you can then kind of interpret. The runes sort of combine to create these words for you. You get 2 words this time. You get the words. Sorry, let me make sure I don't steer you wrong with the directions, because the map is sideways. Yes, you get the directions east and blue.
East.
Tilly with half a chunk of bread and beer in her mouth. Go, what did you say? Did you say yeast? Is there too much yeast in your
East.
water? What?
East.
Oh, east. Is that the direction
No.
you need to go?
We need to go east. Yeast isn't good for birds.
I was definitely going to set it right. Get it for free, maybe.
No, east and the word blue.
Blue. What do you think that'll have to do with
Aye.
anything? Blue? I mean, maybe the river or what?
If only I knew. The
All right.
bones,
All right.
they're cryptic at best.
Nay.
I'll not use my strong words in front of you, young lady, but effective I know what they mean half the time.
Although you will say that lately you've been getting uncharacteristically helpful advice from them, and you know that a lot of times it's hit or miss without actually calling upon the blessings of Wotan. That it's sometimes difficult to get a clear reading from the bones, but they've been hitting more often than not recently in the last few months, maybe stretching onto a year now, which is starting to strike you as just a little bit strange. So you finish your meals, sopping up the last of your runny eggs with the big hunk of crusty bread that was brought. You snap down your fried bacon, which is only just a little too overcooked on the edges, so not too bad, Rowan. And you settle up the bill, which is a paltry sum, and you can head back out onto the streets of Zobek.
All right, you ready to go?
Give me one moment. Waitress. She'll
Yes,
just
dear.
motion her over with her bony fingers. Do the words east and blue mean anything to you? We've gotten rather vague directions.
She kind of tilts her head to the side and purses her lips a bit, and she says, well, the first thing it makes me think of is the Blue Barbers of Wharf Street, and they're just to the east of here. Just down the block a ways.
Aye.
Perhaps that's what
That
you're
could
looking
be
for.
very
Bob.
helpful.
Well,
that was
good
the
luck.
Blue Barbers?
Mm-hmm. Just down on Wharf Street.
Rowan will toss her an extra bit of copper.
Oh, thank you kindly. And she tucks it away in a little pocket inside her apron.
Tilly's gonna be
Tilly?
stroking her beard, but not beard.
And not
like,
beard.
Onto a barber. Oh, all right. Don't know about this, but we'll go. All right.
Maybe I'll get them to give my feathers a trim.
I wasn't gonna say anything,
Sure.
but let's go. She opens the door.
All right, you step back out into the street, and the sun and sort of just street noise of horses' hooves clopping by on cobblestones, and the clatter of cartwheels, and just sort of the general din of city life and chatter between people going about their way, just kind of washes over you as you step outside. And you turn toward the east, and in a few short blocks' time, you do indeed see a street sign proclaiming Wharf Street.
Hi, Wharf Street. Then come on, squeeze between the two, please. All right, let her through. Thank you. All right. Around the alley.
All right, so you go down a little way, and the street opens up into it's almost like a little market square, just a little cramped one, just kind of tucked away in the buildings. And you can see there, off to one side of this market street, is a bright blue pavilion that is sitting up on these polished wood poles with a central sort of taller pole in the middle that pokes it up to a point. And you can see these small figures scurrying about under there. They have these chairs set up with, they look very comfortable, leather, metal framed chairs that can swivel. And there are these step stools around the back of them. And you see these small figures with bright blue hair and also beards and mustaches in these just sort of outrageous styles, also blue, scurrying about. And they have sort of puffy white sleeved shirts with little bands sort of holding the sleeves back to leave their hands free and clear. And they have combs and gleaming scissors. And one of them seems to be chatting animatedly with a burly sort of fellow wearing... he looks like probably a merchant of some sort. He's wearing finer clothes with some fur trim on them, and he is very meticulously grooming this gentleman's beard and mustache. And he's just sort of chattering at him. There are a few other chairs that are occupied, and there is one currently that is open. And the gnomish individual is leaning up against a small side table, and he has a white towel just sort of draped over his arm, and he is very carefully cleaning the blade of a straight razor on it.
Rowan, is that what? Did you want to get your feathers trimmed? I'll take a seat. She like nervously scribbles down the scruff around her fake beard. Like, I'll just sit around the back where I can hear. But do you want to get your feathers trimmed?
Well, that was not the plan.
Or
We need to find...
no pressure, but you know.
I don't know why the bones would want
Few
me
flyaways.
to... I don't know why the bones would want me to get my feathers cleaned, but...
You never know what they tell you, you know. Maybe they're just helping you out a little bit.
Excuse me, sir.
So the two of you kind of make your way over toward the little barber pavilion there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So as you approach, the gnome snaps the straight razor closed and flicks it across his fingers, just kind of rolls it and tucks it into a little leather sheath that's hanging from his belt. And he turns and he looks at you as you approach, and he says, "Oh, good morning, my friends, ladies. Come. Can I offer you?" He kind of squints at Tilly for a moment. He says, "Well, perhaps not a shave, but perhaps a trim. We could clean up any of those split ends, make sure your hair grows nice and thick and strong. I can even offer you a tonic of my own concoction to ensure you a lovely sheen such as you'd find nowhere else." And he kind of turns his eyes over to Rowan and he says, "I'll admit that I've never offered a shave to a raven folk before. I don't suppose that's something you're looking for, though."
Oh, not a shave. No, my feathers are far too precious. But
Of course.
maybe a shine.
Oh,
With a
maybe a bit of
polish.
your tonic for her feathers. Let him have
His
some shine.
eyebrows kind of shoot up towards his head, and he's got kind of a receding hairline, so he has this sort of large, shiny dome of a forehead, and then sort of toward the back, his hair is still there and still very long and very blue and styled up, and his mustache comes out to these long points that curl up with, they must be waxed or something, and his beard is also almost like a tri-corner at his chin, and he says, "Well, that's not something I've tried before. I think, you know what? I think I'll even offer this one on the house just so we can see what happens. What do you say?" And he sort of spins the chair around and takes his towel and swishes the seat cushion with it.
Tilly elbows forth
Bro.
Rowan. Aye, it's free. Get in there. Try it out.
Rowan will just clatter forward with her creaky old bones.
"Oh, that's right. Hop on up right there. Take your time. Get comfortable." So you settle into the chair. There's a soft creak of the cushions and that a smell of just kind of well maintained and this kind of oiled leather that strikes you. It's a comforting sort of smell. And you find yourself settling into the cushion, and you can see that there is on the table, the side table there. He reaches over and pulls up a oval, silver-framed mirror, so you can kind of see yourself. And he says, "Not that this is particularly necessary, since we're not doing a cut or a trim or anything such as that. But well, habits and all of that." So he says, "Here, allow me then," and takes out a little bottle from a little cabinet or a box he has under the table, and he starts patting out this oil, this kind of thick oil, into his hands. "Well," he kind of takes a look at both of you. You're not from around here, unless my eye deceives me."
We're from up north.
Tilly.
Oh, I should quite-
Aye.
I should quite say so. You're a reaver, aren't you? He directs that to Tilly.
Of course I am. Some of the
Oh.
best family of the Raven. Yep.
Whew, that's a hard but I imagine fulfilling and interesting life that you've got for yourself up there. And he begins to very carefully smooth the oil over your feathers, Rowan.
Hey, it
And
does
this
have
is
its
a
up
bit-
and up, yeah.
Bit off topic, but I can't actually see my reflection, can't I?
Yeah, you can.
So just sort of like do the thing that birds do and just sort of flick the feathers a bit.
Yeah, so they sort of flare up a little bit, and he goes, "Whoop!" and kind of waits until you settle down, and then goes back in and starts smoothing some more. It actually starts to feel pretty good when he gets under there and he starts like kind of not exactly scratching your neck or your head, but really working his fingers into the feathers and into the layers, and you can feel the oil starting to kind of slick down over your feathers. If nothing else, they'll probably be nice and waterproof. So they probably start to flare a little bit at the back of her neck.
I haven't had a
You're
good
looking better
pampering
by
like
the
this.
second. Yeah.
I have a good feeling
Haven't
about
had
this.
one
I think it's going to work out very, very well. My name is Keitel, by the way. It's very, very pleased to meet both of you.
Pleased to meet you as well. How are you? Are you the lead barber here? Do you see a lot of people coming in and out?
So he starts to chuckle, and the gnome at the next table over kind of shoots a glare over towards him and narrows his eyes. And he goes, "Oh, I'm most certainly the leader here. You need anything, you come to me. Isn't that right, Vastrin?" And the other one glaring at him just sort of and goes back to his work and doesn't really say anything. You could hear the quick snick of his scissors as he just sort of begins whipping through this fellow's sideburns. Keitel chuckles to himself and says, "Well, I expect this is your first visit to the fair free city of Zobek, then, isn't it?"
It is. We Oh no, go ahead, Rowan. Sorry. You know me. I'm
Oh,
just a
no.
chatterbox.
No, we were sent on business down south, and we are looking for someone in particular, but we were given very vague directions.
Well, that has to be frustrating then, doesn't it?
Aye.
Well, who are you looking
Just
for?
told-
The lads and I hear
Uh,
all sorts of things. People come here and they love to chitter and chatter while they're getting their beard done or their hair cut. Perhaps we know
No,
the
I
person you're
believe
looking for.
We're attempting to look for. We're sent to look for. I believe there are a Dampier.
Ooh, Dampier. Not too many of them spooking around the city. And when you mention Dampier, you can see that his demeanor shifts a little bit. He's intrigued and maybe just a touch suspicious. And he looks over toward the other gnome, whose name is apparently Vastrin, and they sort of catch each other's eye, but they don't quite say anything. It might be one or two of the half-blood vampires spooking about the city. No harm in that, though, as long as they keep to themselves and obey the law
well,
and what have you.
We had a bit of trouble on the road. Tilly's homeland got attacked by the vampire scourge.
Ooh.
And we were sent to find this lad in hopes that maybe he might have some answers.
Well, do you have a name that you're looking for, or shall I just try and scour the word for any of the half-bloods who might be lurking about?
Not
Tilly,
a
seriously.
name, a title.
A title, indeed.
The scion
Oh
of
no,
Osgrey.
that Rowan, that random, the one that you have the fangs from. Didn't he say a name along the lines of Ryodan? Ryodan? Something of the sort? Sorry.
Oh, that is right.
Well,
Ryodan?
that is most certainly a name that I've heard. He is one of the few Dampier that I know about in the city. Well, he kind of catches himself, and he and the other gnome again exchange a look, and he says, well, perhaps now he's the only one to know about. He used to keep company with another Dampier named Kane, who I knew rather well, in fact. Cut his hair on a number of occasions.
Oh,
Back when he
What
was
would
around.
you say their demeanor's like? What would you say their
He says, Vastrin, how would you describe their demeanor? And the other one just sort of rolls his eyes and doesn't say anything again. And so Keitel says, well, I've never met this Ryodan myself, so I'm afraid I can't tell you any first-hand information about him. His erstwhile friend Kane, well, I don't suppose his disposition or demeanor will matter much to help you anymore. But I do know that he keeps company with a rather strange crew. Why, a trollkin, a shadow fae huntress, believe it or not. One of them from the courts of the shadow fae. Also another gnome. No relation to us, mind you. He's one of them from Niemheim.
oh.
A troll kid too, eh?
Mm-hmm. Aye.
Aye.
Well,
But,
that is
Company to keep in.
aye.
So I'm not quite sure exactly where you could find him, but I've heard some rumors that there was a Dampier fellow with more money than sense, spending perhaps every last copper he had on every last diversion and pleasure he could lay his well-manicured nails on. He kind of coughs a little bit awkwardly. It says, well, drink and other diversions. I'm sure you can put your imagination to work and come up with anything you might have been into. He's left quite a swath in his wake these last couple of months.
Bro,
but I haven't
that
seen
surely
him.
can be the one we're looking for. The one that's propheted through you through your bones. But a drunk, you'd say. I mean, I don't mind him, but I'm
Well,
sorry. I just can't believe we're coming after somebody of that nature.
Well, I
recently,
think
most certainly.
we should search him out all the same.
And maybe he'll know the
Just-
one we're looking for.
Those are my thoughts. That I quite want to meet this trollkin. I haven't met any in many moons.
I'm afraid I don't know where exactly to point you to him. His trail has gone a bit cold of recent, but I can tell you that you're very likely to find the Trollkin you so mention, perhaps perhaps also with our very distant cousin, the Neemheim gnome. You might find them in the Collegium district. The Trollkin himself appears to be a wizard of some strength, so you might find him at or about the Arcane Collegium.
All right, a wizard
That's-
Arcane Collegium. Interesting. A wizard Trollkin.
A wizard Trollkin.
All right.
Hey. It's not something I've run into over much myself, but I mean, this is the crossroads. We find all different walks of life, and really, if you get too complacent, expecting one thing, then well, bad things have a way of happening. So try and keep your mind open, eh?
Well, the world is full of wonders and strange follies.
Indeed.
Pretty
By the way,
keeping our
here's
wits about us.
a kind of a little look at what these fellas look like.
Oh, those are
They're
some
shoes.
amazing moustaches.
Yes, indeed. So he finishes up oiling your feathers and sort of chit-chatting. If you have any other questions, you can ask him. You want to ask him, you're certainly welcome to. But he finishes and sort of turns you back to the mirror and says, "There now, done. Have you ever seen such a luster on those feathers of yours?"
You're just gonna stroke them and preen them a bit. It's like, how does it feel?
So the oil, it seemed, while it kind of went onto his hands very heavy, he spread it very, very thinly and evenly, so it really doesn't leave much of a greasy residue that you might expect. It actually doesn't feel too bad. And there's just the faintest hint of kind of an herbal and floral scent to it that is rather pleasant and relaxing. All in all, not a terrible experience.
Oh, now I do like this.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear it. If you wouldn't mind, perhaps come back in a few days and let me know how your feathers fare after it's had some time to settle. Wonderful. Well, this has been most enlightening. Well, I hope it will be in a few days anyway. I'm very pleased to have met you both.
Thanking you kindly.
Aye, you as well,
And-
bro, and you look lovely. We'll have to keep them in at bay, eh? And she elbows her.
Well, maybe we can get you up in the chair next time.
Oh
Youngin.
no. All I need
Oh.
is some good grease in my belly to maintain the spear and hair. I'm good, thanks.
Perhaps you'll consider it next time. I'm telling you, just a little bit of maintenance on your ends there. We needn't remove anything you'd regret. Trust me. I know my work, lass, and you'll see results before too long. I guarantee you that.
Tilly laughs, but then under her breath says something along the lines of "Fighting doesn't need pretty hair," and leaves.
You'd be surprised, and he just sort of waves at you as you take your leave. All right.
So
Aye, but
what direction did you say to go in?
we must head to the Collegium.
Great, yeah. All right, with the Trollkin wizard. I'm really curious about this character.
A
Never met a
Trollkin lizard?
Trollkin
No, a wizard. Wizard.
No, yeah, remember, it's like walking down the street going, wizard, yes, yes.
All right. So you can get some directions without any trouble from any number of, say, the city watch that you see, or any of the locals. They can point you to the Collegium district with no trouble. They send you across a large paved avenue just a little ways east of you, and they say beyond that road and beyond that plaza, everything over there is the Collegium district. The Arcane Collegium itself is a collection of buildings with very strange looking brass and iron clockwork doors, and so you find that without any difficulty whatsoever.
Aye, you're up, Rod. You lovely bird. Both times, bird. Let's go.
I'm not used to speaking so much to so many people.
You should branch out more, you know? You're lovely to talk to. Don't let anybody tell you any different.
Was that a pun? I'll have you know that I'm the only one who can make puns around here, youngin.
Sure.
So as you approach, you can see that the Collegium looks like it's organized into two sort of large courtyards, and then there are perhaps a dozen buildings in and about these courts. They're two-story buildings, a mix of gray and yellow stucco and red tile roofs, and those very intricate-looking doors that you saw from afar. So you can make your way up to one, and you see a number of people sort of making their way about. Several of them, to your eye, obviously strike you as wizards. They're wearing robes. They have great stacks of books and parchments and these bandoliers of pouches, and you can smell strange chemical or herbal scents that sort of follow them like a perfume, and you can see little bits of crystal and other things peeking out of their pouches, usually the things wizards use for the making of their magic.
Rowan is getting very distracted by the shiny crystals.
Tilly will snap. Did Barber tell you his name, or
Of the Trollkin? Or of
He did not,
no.
unfortunately.
all right,
Well,
so
I
looking
don't-
for any Trollkin. She's like peeping around.
I don't think that a Trollkin wizard would be that hard to find.
I will say at first glance in the courtyard, you don't see any trollkin lurking about.
Is there a guard or someone of note around?
You don't see any like city guard or anything along those lines. You see one person that stands out. He's sort of a man of about average height. He's of kind of a slight, almost more athletic build, and he's wearing a garb that is very out of place. It doesn't look like the clothes that anyone else has been wearing here, and he actually has sort of a cloth over his head that's held in place with this black cord that wraps around it, and he has a thick leather glove, almost like a gauntlet, on one hand, and he's looking up toward the morning sun, and then he smiles, and his face is sort of a rich bronze brown color, and he smiles and holds up his arm, and a great falcon comes swooping in and flutters its wings, and his talons outstretched grip onto the gauntlet and sort of settle onto it, and he reaches up and sort of scratches the bird's feathers, which fluff, and the bird turns his head toward the scratch, and he's sort of talking quietly to the rather majestic looking creature.
Oh, now that is a fine bird you have there, sir.
So he turns towards you and smiles. His eyes are very dark, and he says, I thank you kindly for the compliment. Peace upon you and on your friend.
Hello. May I put a finger on it? May I put it a little bit?
Oh, you wish to touch him? He sort of chuckles, this deep, throaty laugh, and he says, yes, I think that should be all right. And he sort of leans, he kind of turns at the waist and presents the bird sort of towards you and says, do mind the beak. He does sometimes nip.
All right. And she'll lightly touch just under the breast of the bird here.
Sure. So the falcon kind of snaps his head to one side and then the other, and his eyes blink quickly, and he just sort of fixes his gaze on you, and you stroke his feathers, no problem, and he sort of shifts his stance on the man's arm a little bit.
Hi, what is your name, little twitty bird? And she'll look at the guy for his name.
This is Fahlan.
Fahlan? All right. What's your
Close
name?
enough. My name has escaped the mind of the man playing me. One moment while he finds it.
That is weird. She looks at Ron. I think this guy may be a little drunk as well. Maybe a little ale from him, but he's got a cute bird, so...
Is it the
All right.
Master Diviner?
It's not the Master Diviner, no.
Okay. I don't know who it
No,
is.
that would be a
know
dwarf.
two
This is not
people.
somebody- This is not somebody you guys have run into before. Gladys,
Yeah, I know
possibly
I know the kobold and I know the Master Diviner. That's it.
has. Yep. Where is it?
Tilly awkwardly looks at Rowan while she's stroking the bird and looks at the guy. All right.
Well, I best not touch it. I don't know what a
Okay.
bird would do if a bird pats a bird.
Just
I
make a
do
note of this,
claim
so I
I've
don't-
never seen it before.
He smiles and says, "My name is Kashif," and he kind of bows slightly at the waist. He says, "And who might you be?"
Well, this young'un is Tilly, and I am Rowan.
He inclines his head to each of you as you're introduced, and he says, "I'm very pleased to make your acquaintance this morning. Is there something you require here from the Arcane Collegium? Can I perhaps direct you to that which you seek?"
Yes, that would be most helpful. Do you know of a Trollkin wizard?
As soon as you say that, his eyes kind of light up, and he smiles, and he says, "Ah, yes, of course, Glazishin. Yes, I know him. I do believe he is here. Would you like me to take you to him?"
Oh, that would be most kind of you.
"And please, do follow me." And he turns and heads toward one of the larger buildings. So he's wearing sort of light brown and tan and off-white colored robes, and these sort of billowing trousers that are tucked into these tight leather boots. Looks like they would be excellent for riding. And his heels kind of click on the cobblestones as he leads you across the courtyard toward one of the larger buildings. And he steps up to the door and looks at the Falcon and says something to him in a language that neither of you speak, I don't imagine. And maybe, Tilly, I would say that you would actually recognize the Southern tongue. It's basically think Arabic. He says something to the bird and kind of gives it a push with his arm, and the falcon takes wing and flies off into the morning sky. And so he moves up toward the door, and he finds a rope and gives it a tug, and you can hear this soft gong note sort of reverberate from behind the door. After a moment, a little door flicks open, and he has a brief exchange with someone on the inside, and then you can hear the clattering of clockwork mechanisms from in and around the door and in the door frame, and it begins to break open in the center and slide open. And inside you can see a long stone hallway lighted with these lanterns and torches that burn with a peculiar blue-white flame. They don't give off any smoke, and there's no smell of torches or burning lamp oil or anything of that nature. The ceilings are vaulted, and here and there are little statues set into alcoves. And he looks at both of you and says, "Please, follow me. I will take you to the library. I have no doubt that is where we will find that which you seek."
Tilly, very impressed by all the majesty of this place, is straightening her armor, putting her shield up and walking a little taller in here to represent.
All right, good. So he leads you through the hallway, down an intersection to another corridor where there is a large set of double doors that are open into the hallway, and next to it is sort of a almost like a podium, kind of combination podium and desk, and there is a young human woman with her hair sort of messily pinned up into a bun, wearing this sky blue robe with a few more things that strike you as the stuff of wizardry, and she seems to be studying a book, and she looks up with these pale blue eyes, and her eyes sort of sweep across all three of you. They settle on the man with you, and she smiles briefly and nods at him and doesn't pay you any more attention than that. He sort of bows slightly at the waist as he walks and just kind of beckons you to follow him. He takes you into an immense library. There are dark hardwood tables with benches and chairs all over. The lighting in here is a bit more subdued in general, and then it's focused in little reading areas at the tables with these green glass shaded lamps that direct the light downward at whatever material someone might bring there. You find the overall ambiance in here, at least the lighting, a little bit more subdued and a little bit more comfortable. In the hallway, it was a little bit stark and almost garish. The stacks of books rise to the ceiling, which is some 30 feet overhead, and it looks like farther along there's another second level, and you can see rolling ladders here and there to reach some of the taller shelves, and there are a handful of wizards or apprentices going about research. And he kind of stops for a moment, listens, and then you hear this faint "aha" kind of echo from farther back in the in the library, and he smiles, beckons once again, and leads you into the stacks. He takes you into a secondary sitting and reading area, and you can see there are 2 mountains of books and these rolls of parchment just sort of cascading down them. And from behind one of the mountains, you can see these long tips of tufted ears sort of wiggling about from behind this obstruction of leather and parchment. And you can hear this faint muttering and scratching of a quill from the other side. And so he leads you up to the table and says, "I am so sorry to disturb you, Gladyshin. May I have a moment of your time?"
One moment, just one thing. I'll be right with you. Just if you'll take one moment. And you see a finger come up sort of over top of the top of books, signaling for one moment. And you hear the quill writing the last few scratches down. And then I'm assuming he was sitting down, so he stands up. And so Glaz stands up to his full height of about a bit over 7 feet tall, not including the tops of the ears, which stick up a little bit higher. He has his glasses.
Billy tries to stand even taller.
And she's short for a dwarf, right?
Yes.
Yep.
He has sort of bright orangish skin, but he is, until he might be familiar, I don't know how much you had encountered Trollkin. I know you had a couple encounters, but he is a Stonehide Trollkin, so he is a bit heavier built than some of the other Trollkins. He has sort of a stony consistency to his skin, and these are sort of orange and red sort of mottled looking stones, and he sort of looks at you. He sort of has this big tuft of sort of red orange hair, and there's little tufts of there, but the biggest thing you see is his sort of round, shiny glasses and his, of course, big Trollkin tusks. And he looks. And do I know this gentleman's name?
Yeah, you do. Kashif.
Oh, Kashif, how are you doing today? Where is that fine feathered friend of yours? Out on a flyabout, I'm sure. Yes.
Indeed he is, yes. And I am very, very well. Thank you for asking, Glaz. And he sort of reaches out and puts a kind of affectionate hand on Glaz's shoulder. And he says, "You have visitors, if I may be so bold as to present them."
Oh, of course. Come. And he sort of steps around the table as well, because he probably doesn't see them quite readily below, because I don't know how tall Rowan is, but with this tall stack of books, he comes around. Oh, yes, hello. Whose fine acquaintance do I have to meet today? I am a Gladyshin, Carnelian. It's very nice to meet you. And you are?
I am Tilly Ashbreaker, leader of her clan, of the Reavers of Wolfmark, way north. And this is Rowan, a Ruin Reader, close to where we're from as well.
Ah, hello.
So Kashif kind of takes a step back and bows very slightly to all of you and says, "I will leave you to your business, and I wish you all a very fortunate day." And he turns and heads out of the library.
Thank you, and your lovely bird.
Alrighty.
Now, so Rowan is 6 foot, but she sort of hunches and
Thank you for the bits, Andrew.
Crouches over because she's old and rickety and is always just looking at things. And she sort of takes your hand and is sort of inspecting it.
May I offer you a seat, my honored seer? I'm assuming that he might have a little bit of knowledge about the Raven folk, and if nothing else, just recognizing that this is his elder would probably offer a seat.
You know the basics of the Raven folk.
Please have a seat. And he looks a little bit, kind of wrings his hands a little bit at Tilly, having not had good experiences with dwarves before, and goes,
And she interrupts, "No worries," and she very crassly drags a chair over, just across the floor.
Welcome to Zobek. I would actually very much love to talk with you about the Northlands. I am from the south. I am from Malion and the Fellmire, so I do not know of the Northlands much at all. And it would be lovely to hear more about. I know from my studies that our people have not often seen eye to eye on things or often fight over territories. I hope you bring no ill will with you. I hold no ill will toward you, as it is not part of my heritage at all.
No. I mean, your people are definitely very honorable fighters. I've definitely had a little bit of experience with some of them, but I've never quite seen a wizard like you as a trollkin. But that's all right. No judgment here.
Well, I'm actually a geomancer. My magic comes from the land itself, and apparently he sort of kind of looks at himself, and you kind of notice, and while his hands aren't dirty, they kind of always look like he's maybe been out, like they're dusty, but it's just sort of the coloration of his skin. It is a gift that I have developed from when I was very young, back out in Thelmeyer Swamp collecting herbs. I was always able to find what we needed by just sort of listening. It plays to me like music. So you have traveled far. Have you food, refreshment? Are you tired? How can I help you? And what brings you here?
Rowan's just going to inspect his hands a bit closer.
Mm-hmm. So she kind of, the Raven lady sort of leans in and her big eyes blink as she watches your hands. Simply, can you roll me a 50% chance, please, and tell me if you get high or low? So roll any die or whatever you want to do.
Low.
All right. So as you guys are talking, you can hear this sort of crackling, this low bass crackling drone from somewhere way off elsewhere in the building. There's this just sort of muffled sound of like an energy discharge almost, and a second or so later you see a few crackles of greenish energy arc along the edges of the stone and along the edges of the bookshelves here. Tilly, your skin tingles just slightly as some of the arcs crawl by you.
She shivers a little bit. Excuse me, what was that?
Probably someone experimenting glass, and maybe some energy went awry. Happens here from time to time.
At the Collegium, there is much research that is occurring pretty much all over the time, and once in a while, I must say I've been guilty myself of making a bit of this disturbance. But you are quite safe. There's nothing to worry about. He sort of looks around and smells to make sure there's nothing to worry about.
You don't smell any you don't smell any ozone or any smoke or anything like that. About this time, I think Cloak is coming back with another stack of books that he went off to find for the topics that you guys are researching. And Tilly, so you're doing that thing where you're kind of drawing yourself up to your full height because this 7-foot tall trollkin is kind of towering over you, and it looks like maybe he's starting to do that too because he's looming just a little bit more. So you kind of try to maybe up on your tiptoes a little bit, and then that just sort of goes on, and you're getting a little frustrated, and then you realize the rest of you watch as Tilly begins to shrink. And you can see a few of those faint green crackles sort of limning her like St. Elmo's fire.
Her grip is getting looser and looser on her warhammer handle. What's happening? It
looks like your things are shrinking with you. So what looked like glass kind of looming over you, now it looks like the rest of the world or the room is getting bigger.
Rowan, I don't know what was in my ale at the tavern. What's happening?
I might have been mistaken about the not being anything to be concerned about. Don't worry, it will wear off soon. It looks, I'm assuming this is basically a enlarge, reduce,
essentially,
wild,
yes.
Something.
Yes.
Yep.
So Tilly, you are currently a small creature.
Wonderful.
You realize that you're basically shorter than the table now, and everyone's just kind of looming over you, looking a little giantish.
Actually, this will be kind of a nice thing for an introduction for Glass. Oh, you know what? Actually, wait, just one moment. And so you see he's sort of wearing this tunic that doesn't have sleeves on it because sort of the rocky protrusions on his arms don't quite work well with sleeves. But he takes off this giant moose hide and spreads it out across the table. And just, here, I will help you. Just one moment. And Rowan will see, depending on her familiarity with with magics or with what he's doing. He begins to cast I'm sorry. I read that completely wrong. That's detect magic, not dispel magic. Never mind. That didn't happen because I don't have dispel magic as a ritual.
Do you happen to know? Do you know Enlarge Reduce?
I do not have it prepared, and I don't think that I have it.
You have it in your spell book.
Let me check in my spell book.
Tell you what,
I do not have it in my spell. I do not have it in my spell book.
All right.
Nope. Sorry, I completely glanced at it and saw that dispel magic. Detect magic is dispel magic. Perhaps he does it anyway, though. Well, let's see what's going on with you. Yes, shall we? And
All
so
right.
yeah, I'll detect magic to see what's going on.
And she does indeed radiate transmutation magic. You could see that much. Although the magic is somewhat unstable and fluctuating, but it seems like it's mostly okay for now.
This should.
What you're saying is it'll wear off, yeah?
Yes, that is my read of it right now. It should not be a big problem. If it does become a problem, there are plenty of wizards here. We can find one with no problem who can just zap that right off of you.
Rowan's just going to pick Tilly up and put her up on the table.
Hey.
All right, so he just sort of scoops you up and clank, plops you up on the table.
Buddy, that's normally Cloak's spot, as Cloak usually jumps on the table to do things.
Yep. So
I will
also point out, Glaz, as you're looking at her, her shield and warhammer also radiates some magic. The shield also radiates transmutation magic, and the warhammer's signature is very, very faint. You really can't get much of a read off of it. It looks like maybe it once had some powerful magic laid on it, or perhaps says something that's dormant, something along those lines.
He sort of looks and just goes, "Oh, and look at your shield. It is enchanted as well, and your hammer with something lingering about it. We'll have to talk more about that for sure."
It was me father's, but one day I'll tell you of all the blood it's seen in its time, yeah. All of it.
I always like a good story.
Cloak comes hopping forward. Cloak, you can see what looks like maybe another gnome wearing plate armor and bearing a shield with a kind of a silver raven insignia on it, is standing up on the table talking to Glaz. And there's a very old raven folk woman, sort of bedecked in baubles and feathers and trinkets.
Okay. Cloak, we have new friends. Come and meet them.
God damn it.
This is Tilly. She's a dwarf. She's shrinking right now. We don't know how small she will get. And here is don't worry. And here is Rowan. She is a raven folk. They are quite revered from the north. Where my people are from, but not me.
There's a minor eye glance at the mention of Rowan, but what you see in front of you is like this. As he like puts the stack of books down, it's probably about like almost his height. He is analyzing everyone, and what you see is this small figure that has a red cloak around him with a foliage that's inside of it that looks like it's almost growing inside the cloak itself, and there seems to be like how Cloak moves. The cloak doesn't seem to move with him, but it does at the same time. It's very weird. And then you would see a mask over his face that comes up down and over his not over his mouth, but it's black, looks obsidian-like, and has two giant fangs hanging from the front of it. And then
it looks decidedly draconic, like there's a dragon visage settled over his face, and you can see between the like forged or stylized scales, it looks like it glows with this almost molten metal kind of look to a very faint reddish light.
Rowan Rowan clacks her beak as she tries to get a closer look at you and just sort of reaches her hand out to touch the mask.
No, you don't just touch things. What the fuck are you doing? No. Okay. I know he's a trollkin wizard, but here, you guys want to see something cooler? Hold on. And then he would like take some meat out and throw it, and be like, puff, puff, and then throw it up in the air to have Puff Puff fetch it. Also, her barding is new, right? So what does that look like?
Right. We haven't quite dealt with that yet. So she has. All right. So first of all, if you throw a little bit of dried meat into the air, how high are you throwing it? Like, are you just chucking it up into the?
Chucking it far up the air for like it's a trick that he taught her.
Sure.
So he's just like, yep.
All right, so like 10, 15 feet up, that kind of deal, or something along those.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so he chucks a little piece of jerky up into the air, and you have a moment to think. All right, what is this business? And then there's this sudden spray of these golden sparkles that like glitter almost that appear in the air, and this golden-furred, sleek hound appears out of nowhere amidst this shimmer, snatches the meat out of the air in her jaws, and then lands with this sort of rattling clank because she's also dressed in this like light chain barding that's draping over her form with a little saddle, and she snaps the meat in her jaws and swallows it happily, and she trots over to Cloak and snuffles under his hood and licks his face, and you can see that her eyes are this gleaming silver color, and she sort of stops and looks at both of you and tilts her head and kind of steps forward and begins sniffing at Rowan's hand.
At this point, am I
hand out and
smaller than Cloak and Puff Puff?
You're at this point probably about roughly the same size as Cloak. You're both small creatures. He's probably a little bit more lithe than you are. Tilly's got a fair bit of meat on her bones, and Cloak I think is a little bit more wiry.
Yeah, definitely. It's hard to tell under the cloak though, but he is more wiry.
Puff Puff is so big. I mean, she's like large dog size, like maybe Great Dane or a big German Shepherd sort of size. Mm-hmm. She's pretty big.
So I would look at the both of them, and I was like, okay, you got your show, you saw a trollkin wizard, want to go?
So as soon as he tries to get gold from you, Puff Puff looks at him and goes, "Yo!"
Okay, fine. 2 gold. Okay, fine. It was a free show.
She begins wagging her tail.
That's an.
Rowan's going to give the dog a scratch behind the ears.
She kind of leans her weight against your hip a little bit as you scratch her, and you can feel her tail thumping at the back of your thigh.
I haven't seen one of you in a very long time.
Tilly whispers
yes.
over to
Rowan. You do in fact, yeah, Rowan. You recognize a blink dog.
This is a very special type of dog. Have you ever heard tales of the blink dog, Tilly?
Not that I remember, but probably heard plenty of tales, but over ales, never know.
They say they are fey creatures from the Feywild. Well, that's what some tales say, anyway.
She says it louder. So he's a fey creature.
Aye. A fey
pointing
dog.
at Cloak, though, not at the.
Cloak. I have no idea about this gnome. Where did you procure such an interesting blink dog, Mr. What was your name?
Cloak.
Cloak.
I don't know why are you guys here?
Short and sweet, no pun intended. Cloak.
Well, we were sent to find. I believe he is your friend, your acquaintance, from what we have heard. a Dampier named Riordan.
Okay, so go talk to Riordan.
We
Well,
Is that the
don't know
fuck
how to
house?
No. Look, obviously, they do not know where he is. Well,
He's at the
well,
fuck house. I mean, he's notorious for being at the fuck house. Just go to the fuck house.
What is your problem with me?
Oh,
young
no, he's like this
gnome?
with everybody. Don't you worry.
I don't come in here in your home and ask 20 questions. I just, you want Riordan. I told you where he is. But what do you want?
This
with him?
this is a library, not a home.
She's got you there.
Yes, but we had to be quiet in the library, so shh.
And then he like walks off.
I was going to say it. And Glaz gives Cloak the biggest. You've got to be kidding, right? You quiet in the library.
So, Puff
Your
Puff,
kobold
the
friend is going to come visit the.
the hound kind of looks between the retreating Cloak and Rowan and Tilly, and then back to Cloak, and then sort of noses her muzzle up under Rowan's hand and licks her palm once, and then follows Cloak.
But
Rowan will
sign
just
that
will
Glaz likes you.
Rowan will snake her a little bit of jerky from her sleeve.
She snatches it out of your claws very quickly, and just inhales it.
That dog is a very good judge of character. That makes me feel much better about all of this.
At least we've made one
so-
friend.
Riordan,
yes, I'm the only one who keeps his cards close to his chest. Everyone else is flashing their hands around the table. Yes, so, Riordan,
we're not playing cards, Cloak.
it's a figure of speech.
I know, but I like to bug you with it.
God damn it. So, Riordan, what do you want with Riordan?
He is not. He is a bit indisposed as of late.
Yeah.
His maybe
you'll-
only friend died recently and tragically,
Oh,
and he is mourning in his own way, which is not the healthiest thing we have ever witnessed, or I certainly have not. But perhaps, what are you looking for him for? Maybe we can something that will bring him back to us.
Well,
Is it drugs?
no. Not yet, we don't think. No.
I am not familiar with many drugs, but it is a long story.
It is
We
a
were
matter of
sent-
great importance, we will say that.
Well, young Tilly's home has been attacked by the vampire scourge, that empire, and they are now at war. But just before the battle, I received a vision of a one-eyed white raven.
What am I doing here?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the raid.
The one-eyed white raven, the same as on Tilly's shield, telling me to go south.
She flaunts her shield. See?
And there is indeed a silver raven emblem embossed on the plate on the front of the shield, and it has a big crease in the metal cutting through one of its eyes.
She taps it to show how strong it is too. Yep. See?
Dunk.
Right shield. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this raven told me to go south and search for the scion of Osgrey.
Do I even know Riordan's last name?
You've probably heard it at one point or another. Yeah, you'd recognize it.
What?
Well, then
The last son, yes?
the last son. And it was confirmed to us that it was your dear friend when we met one of his former kinsmen on the battlefield.
Someone
So
of
he's
He's
Riordan-
no longer with
of
us.
Riordan's family is alive.
No, this was just No. Just another
someone
vampire.
someone loyal to that house.
As a quick refresher, you know that Ladislav, the vampire spawn you spoke to, was a member of the same faith as Riodan, but not a member of his direct family.
Someone loyal.
What do I don't understand. So what do you want with Riordan? What's it?
I don't know.
Rowan, tell him how bright and vivid this reading was compared to your normal ones that you have.
Wotan, he is normally cryptic. My visions are never so strong, so clear, so real.
Until he kind of goes and leans over and goes, she never even leaves her hut, and she came all the way to my house to come and tell me. Never.
You a witch?
A witch? No. I would consider myself more...
I'm rolling insight right now. 13.
13. She seems to be sincere that she is not a witch.
Okay, you pass that test.
I would consider myself more of a seer, or even a cleric. I carry the word of Wotan, and deliver his truths to those who wish. But she'll put down the sheep's knuckle bones, and specifically the one which the World Tree rune, which has been stained with blood.
So Glaz, she pulls out a pouch and dumps out kind of a double handful of bone-carved runes. And so your eyes sort of immediately pop open, and you recognize many of them. And the one in particular that she pulls out is Awa's. And you can see that there is this old, dried blood, like crusted in the carving, the etch of the rune, as she points it out to you.
So, because we talked about it, I know you and I know a lot about Awa's. In Glaz's research here at the Collegium, because that being one of the things that he likes to study, would he immediately recognize it, and I assume he recognizes it as a rune, but will he know its meaning?
Oh yeah, I mean you've studied the rune. You have some knowledge of the rune imparted to you by that little iron ingot. So yeah, you recognize the rune immediately.
Well, no, I took Awa's. This is Utri. Hers is Utri, right?
No, the one she's showing you is Awa's.
Horses Freedom Knitting Pole. That's the one I took.
Oh, you took a different.
I took the one right above it, literally in the book.
Awa's is Utri. Awa's is Utri is the one you recognize. So yeah, you know the general meaning of it, yeah.
Oh, the World Tree.
Stained with blood. In this vision, my entire hut, blood, thick, fresh, potent, just seeping through the floorboards, all around me, on my bones. And then the raven spoke to me. And the raven seemed real. I have never had a vision quite like it.
Tell him about the smell of the smoke you told me about. The thick smoke.
Oh, smoke. It just filled the hut. From my fireplace, there's the smell of the smoke thick within, and it was intermingled with the smell of iron. It was just fire and blood and the scent of ruination. I do fear that if... How long have we been traveling, Tilly?
Oh, probably about a week or so, maybe.
Since just the journey from Skagerholm.
Because I know they also tried to fight their way across the Blood Kingdoms.
Well, they kind of went carefully along the.
Tell you what, let me ask my question a different way. I'm trying to see whether her vision lines up to when we were messing with the black tree at Castle Shadow Crag. And as we know, as Glaz knows, that the black tree is sort of a weird, corrupted world tree thing. Shadow tree. Shadow version.
It's very it's probably difficult to tell exactly if that was the right time, but it's pretty damn close.
It is interesting that you would have such a vision. The incident that I was talking about, where Riodan's friend was lost. We were at the Stross castle, the Castle Shadowcrag, where the black oak, isn't it the black oak?
The black oak.
Yeah, I think so.
Where the black oak lives. It is a perversion of a world tree, and you have shown here with a rune of the world tree in blood and smoke and fire. We saw a very disturbing vision. One of the walkers, the dread walkers, within a deep forest, pulled out of stasis and thrown into the western wastes, using the power of the black oak.
So
something
I would
like
say
that. The amount of
most of that doesn't mean a whole lot to the two of you, but it sounds very bad.
well, and the big piece that I'm going to say is,
yeah,
and a ley line, the Shadow Road. So I just need to double check on my lore here. I know the tiny little ley line that was over when we at the Everforge was fire, and I can't recall, was the Shadow Road sort of corrupted by fire as well? Or was it still, was it its normal magic?
It was its normal magic.
Okay, so it was just they were tapping the power of the Shadow Road to make
They
the
damned
portal
it, and
at
we
the Everforge.
undamned it, and now it's like
Gotcha.
kind of
Right. So I also encountered a portal to the city of Brass in the realm of fire just prior to this. So we too have bumped into fire and trees and blood, our own, spilled.
This cannot be a coincidence.
I agree.
Coincidences are far and few between in this world. Everything happens for a meaning. By Wilson's truth, we must get to the bottom of this.
So
What's Cloak doing during this time?
he's just quietly listening and like analyzing the two. He doesn't know what's up with them, but he's seeing how Glaz and Rowan are very much bleeding hearts and just giving all the information away, and he's just like, God damn it.
So you said your friend is at the folk house.
Yes, the fuck
At
house.
the Silver Scabbard, it is a brothel.
Silk Scabbard, not Silver Scabbard.
I'm sorry, the Silk Scabbard.
Silk
I know these
Scabbard.
things. Glaz knows these things, even though I screw it up every time.
It's a fuck house. You go there and get laid.
It's a house of entertainment of all types.
We
Yes.
we came across a barber who mentioned that potentially he had been spending great amounts of money there. Is he staying there now, or is he staying around there with you guys?
Pretty much is there all the time.
She sees you scoff, and she's like, "When is the last time you've even seen your friend?"
So he avoids us like the plague, because he's having hurt feelings, and he's like, "Oh, I'm so sad right now." And then we're like, "Oh, you can talk to us, but I gotta go in the corner." And then he'll just disappear, and then he sold most of his belongings. I think he still has his armor.
You guys probably don't know that detail just yet. You really haven't seen it to realize that he's hawking all of his things. And I will say, Tilly and Rowan, your trip from the Wolfmark along the rivers, moving carefully, avoiding the Blood Kingdom's patrols and forces as much as you could, it was probably close to a 2-month journey. from there to
2 months.
Zobek.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess we
I see
really
him
haven't
on-
seen him.
I see him when I am at the Silk Scabbard on Tuesdays nights playing games with Thalia. He does not say hello. He keeps to himself, and he looks like, well, as Cloak would say, he looks like shit.
Yeah, he does look like shit. You ever seen someone who drinks way too much all the time and then really loves
Hey.
drugs?
No.
Yeah, that's that.
No. I don't see people very much.
He's wasting away. He is.
So what?
Are you blind?
Oh
He
no,
likes
she's not.
waving
Only,
in front of
only
an
in one
eye.
eye. Only in this one. Mostly.
Wait, so are you... Wait, did you get a message from yourself? Because you only have one eye?
Oh
there
no,
are lots of
her
ravens.
eye is this one. My eye, the raven, is the other eye. And she like taps at her strong shieldian.
Look,
So you took her eye?
No, I didn't take her eye.
it is
no.
a sign. Cloak. It's a sign.
No, if you want to know this story,
Oh, you always look at the books. You have to look at the mystery of it. See, it's a sign. One eye on one and one eye on the other. It's a raven person and a dwarf with a shield. It all means
Tilly
something.
elbows
Have some
Rowan.
imagination, Cloak. I assume Glaz and Cloak have this book learning versus intuition all the time.
Mm-hmm. I
Well,
think we just need
Mr.
facts. That's all we need. Like,
Mr. Cloak, the fact is that an assassin attempted to take my life. They only left this.
Okay. Why was the assassin trying to kill you, I guess? And Glass, you found a new best friend because she just tells us everything and we didn't even have to, like, interrogate at all.
Well, you do know that I am a seer. It's my job to give you information, whether that be for woe or for well.
Do I know what seers are?
I mean,
cloak
sure.
in general?
I mean, there's always someone who claims they can see the future or they get messages from beyond. Most of it's probably bullshit. But you know better than others that there are absolutely things from beyond that can whisper and impart knowledge and information. Wotan is a well-known god. So if she's a cleric of Wotan, it's entirely possible that she can, cast his runes and draw knowledge from them.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Well,
Hey, do you doubt her?
what?
Do you doubt her and her seeing? You seem a little bit
Oh, do I
uneasy.
doubt her? Oh my god, you just threw me out. You're so tiny, I'm expecting like a gnomish, like, kind of dialogue, but it's just dwarf all over you. Yeah, no, I can tell.
No, I am bigger than you, but just saying, she's stretching even bigger. Really big.
Nah, it's all about the size here. That's what matters. No, I'm not doubting. It's called getting information because I like facts, and facts are good, and they're, yes. But if you guys want to go see Riordan.
No, I mean, I'll let you know this. She and I have had a close relationship for quite a while, but she doesn't normally talk to many other people outside of her own little hovel and tree. So I am concerned based on just her activity to push forward in this project or so where we're going. You don't know her, but that's the only experience I have. So maybe it's more, it's important at least to her,
The last time we had someone in our group that had visions now that has disappeared, we ended up at Shadowcrag fighting whatever void being that was, and that was fun, super fun. So this could only go up from here.
As a side note, Glaz, when speaking of Shadowcrag and the void being, you were here gathering materials to try and research those strange brass sheets that were covered in the very intricate and specific void speech glyphs and diagrams, and it looked very much like, you'd almost guess pages out of a spell book is what the inscriptions on it look like, but you really haven't been able to find much on it. The information on void magic here at the Collegium is just so scant. So it feels like you've exhausted the library's materials that might have been able to help you. And they don't have anyone who could even be remotely considered expert on void magic.
Oh. Dan, why do you tease me with these things this way? Because those void magic spells are so good, and they're so dangerous.
They're real good. They are real good.
Oh man, oh man.
Well, do you guys want to go see your last scion? That's actually kind of funny that you guys need him to stop a war. I don't know what you guys want him for.
I have no idea, but maybe I'll get another vision soon. That would be very helpful.
Well, perhaps it is something even bigger. Look.
Maybe? I don't know.
believe it. To have had a vision so clear, it is something bigger than all of us. Wotan would not deliver his messenger upon me in such a manner just for catching up for tea.
Well, I think you're in luck because me and him are probably the only ones crazy enough to go along with this. So, yeah, okay.
Now, you did give us a show with your beautiful dog.
Puff,
Would
puff.
you like Puff Puff? What a delightful name. Now,
Yes.
you want proof? Let me read your fortune.
Just want to
I'm
read my
going to-
fortune?
Tilly sits down
I'm
against the
gonna-
table. Hey, a fortune
I'm going
reading?
to get out a strip of leather and lay that down and put the sheep's bones on it, and I'm going to attempt to divine something that might happen to Cloak.
Using your background feature?
Yeah.
Or something specific? Okay. So you're going to attempt a glimpse of fortune. Alrighty.
Can I roll Arcana while she's doing this?
Sure. So this, you know that this is usually a lengthy process, Rowan. If you are...
I can do an augury if that's easier.
You can. That would be something you'd have to link that to a specific course of action someone was going to undertake. If you want just kind of a general thing, then a glimpse of fortune is definitely the way to go. Just It's not, throw a handful of bones, see what they say. It's kind of a longer process.
Yeah.
Okay, so Cloak, are you going to go along with this? She's offering to tell your future.
Yeah.
Okay. So why don't you go ahead and make me a wisdom check with your tool proficiency? So wisdom plus proficiency bonus.
Who, me?
Rowan.
Okay.
And you can make your Arcana check, Cloak.
I got a 10.
10. All right.
Mhm.
You're fairly certain that she's not casting any sort of spell while she's doing this. So, take from that what you will. Maybe you would be more favorably disposed to if she was using some kind of divination magic to get information, but it doesn't look any sort of actual specific spell.
Okay, that is a 19 plus 5.
Ooh. 19 total or a 24 total?
24 total.
24 total. All right. Wow. Okay. So maybe I'll give a little bit more than the vague BS I was going to throw you. So this, she kind of takes you through, it's almost like going to a psychic for a tarot reading or that sort of deal. But she casts her rune bones and glass. It's absolutely fascinating. You're getting like a real slice of Northland's mystic kind of tradition and culture here. So he's probably taking notes and watching everything you do. She asks you some questions. She engages you in some conversation, Cloak. It's like going to a psychic reading sort of deal. So probably over the course of getting close to an hour, she casts the bones several times, talks about various things that the bones can mean, the various meanings that they can have. And what's your initial impression of this going in? What are you thinking about this whole scenario, Cloak?
I just saw T. Someone killed Cloak. Basically, he's going to naturally be deceptive. In like when answering questions, like when he knows it's like something that's not pertaining to him, he'd be like, "Oh yeah, that's it, totally," and then "No, that has nothing to do with me," and then kind of being misleading the whole time because whether this is real or not, he doesn't want the actual information about him to be found out because of his race
reasons.
And so he's just seeing also if she's full of shit or not. As well.
So Rowan, all right. So you're kind of, I guess we'd call it skeptical going in, but also making sure to be very guarded just in case there's anything to what she's claiming she can do.
Mm-hmm.
That sound about right?
Yeah, that sounds pretty accurate.
Okay, so Rowan, as you go on, you begin asking questions, casting your stones, your rune tiles, and so the things that you start to come up with, you'll start to pull little bits and pieces of insight from Cloak's past, and you'll tell him things about. Let's see, how would you get this? You get from him the feeling of a happy childhood, but with a cloud over it that for much of his life he didn't really see. And then once he did see it, he could never unsee it. And whenever that turning point came, his world was taken from him. And he's been desperately trying to build himself a new world ever since then. And you can kind of put this into whatever own words you prefer, or kind of couch it in whatever symbolism or meaning you wanna give to it. That's fine. You suspect that a
resplendent offering.
Oh, thank you for the offering very much. We'll get to some wild magic surges here in a little bit. You get the feeling that his family are all gone. His immediate family are, you would guess dead, but it's difficult to say. You see blood, you see death, and you get the feeling of blood staining his hands in particular. And that there's almost this general pervasive feeling of uncleanliness that settles around him. And that might account for that dark cloud or that pall that you sense that was over his life. And for much of his young life, he didn't know about it. But regardless, it was staining him all the same through maybe no fault of his own. That's what you glean from his past. About his future, with a 24, you definitely get a flash of insight. Someone close to him is going to come calling, and it's going to have something to do with the blood that stains his hands. And you suspect soon. Perhaps before the next full moon.
Okay, I will start to relay this information to him. You have a sunny childhood, but the rain clouds and the storm soon came, and you soon noticed them. And then they would not go unnoticed. You wanted something new, to forge something better for yourself. But you knew that the blood on your hands could not be washed. It was so stained beneath your fingernails, and she'll just take his hand and just turn it over in hers and just inspect it. It's there, beneath the fingernails, in all the pores. That blood will not wash off, no matter how hard you scrub. And I fear that before the next cycle of the moon, someone you know will come about that blood.
That was a good try about that.
Tilly's so eagerly watching, she's like pulled out a bit of bread she saved from breakfast, just like
There's a gnawing on it. So how does before you go into however you're going to do, what does Cloak feel about that sort of reading?
I mean, so he still sees it as vague with the past. So he's curious if it is a sham, but it's more with the future one. It's hard to say what that is, and he can guess what that is, but it's more he's going to wait for it to happen to be to see if it's accurate or not. Just due to what just because he doesn't trust people. So he's like, I mean, there's a lot of storms in Nihon. My family house got struck by lightning. So I mean, that was pretty accurate. I don't know about this blood thing. I've killed people before. So maybe
your own family, perhaps. They aren't here anymore.
No, the lightning killed them.
Go ahead and make a charisma. Go ahead and make a charisma deception check, and Rowan, you can make a wisdom insight check.
Fucking 10.
21.
Oh,
Damn.
yeah.
are you sweating at the same time?
Yeah, so he's full of shit about a lightning strike killing his family.
Yes, I still smell the lightning.
When you take a sniff, Rowan, you don't smell, musty, dusty library book pages. You smell this very faint perfume. It smells almost like jasmine blossom. It was there for just a second, then gone.
There's something about you. And she's just going to clack her nails against her beak.
Our friend Kari used to say that all the time and then scowl at me.
Your friend might have had a point. I would prepare for unwelcome visits within the next few days.
Like now?
Maybe train your Puff Puff to be a better guard dog.
I look at the armored dog and I was like,
She's kind of sitting on her haunches right now, and her tongue is just kind of lolled out in a big doggy grin, and she's just panting, watching you guys. And she sort of licks her chops every now and then and looks at the knuckle bones.
I mean, that's good advice. I always live by that because, our house almost got destroyed by, what was that? Laz, what destroyed the house?
Lightning?
No.
You're muted, Tull.
A void apparition of some sort that was nasty piece of business. It took us almost a month to get everything rebuilt.
That cost me a platinum piece.
Tilly, wood of the table begins to groan under your weight a little bit as the magical effect that had shrunken you seems to be wearing off, and your full weight is re-exerting itself, and you kind of start to stretch up over the pile of books up on the table.
Oh, look, here you are back to normal. See, I told you it'd be fine.
Tilly very awkwardly starts to like shuffle off, like knocking books. Oh, excuse me, sorry, didn't. Oh, excuse. Armor uncomfortably coming out at a different rate, so it's a little tight at first. Oh god. Oh god.
What are we rolling? The wild magic surge on?
They're already covered. It's on the big table that Encounter Roleplay uses.
No, what are we using to roll it?
Oh, I don't know. When I rolled one, I just found a random. I just googled a random number generator.
Oh, that works.
Hold on.
Oh, so you've already rolled them for us?
Yeah. It's all set.
Oh yeah. We don't need to roll it. Great.
Okay.
Yep, those are all set. Right. So with a great crash and clanking of her plate armor, Tilly kind of shuffles herself and ups down off the table. Her boots kind of trump on the carpeted floor.
She awkwardly kind of picks up the books. Oh, so she put this book. Was this pile or is this pile? I don't know.
Oh no, here I've got it. Thank you so much. Thank you. And Glaz takes it and puts it back because he has his own little method of sorting, which makes no sense to anybody but Glaz.
Fair.
And now that she notices that she's actually taller than Cloak, she's like, "Oh, this is
yeah.
Very good." Excuse me, just stretching. Oh, so tall.
Then you see him, and he like kind of like jumps up like Glaz's like shoulders and like sits on it, and he's like, "Yeah, it's so tall."
Yeah, all right, the fuck house, right? Where are we going?
Yeah, the fuck house. Wait, what time of day is it?
It's morning. It's not even lunchtime.
Oh, he's not going to be up for hours.
Either that, or he's still up from the night before.
Oh, that we've seen that happen as well. But
let's go check
if
it
he
out.
will see us regardless.
You think your friend will have a problem? You were mentioning that you hadn't seen them in a while. Is there anything we should be prepared for, or we should take as a method of persuasion maybe for this person?
Do you have any drugs?
Yeah. Do you have any drugs?
I can make a strong brew, but that's about it. No drugs, no.
Make a strong
That will take some
brew?
time. Brew.
Oh,
Like
brew.
ale, beer.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, he'd go for a boob too, or
Oh,
whatever.
he likes
but-
that wine though. The fancy, very expensive. Well, actually, he's been drinking the keg bottom lately because he's well. Actually, we could bring turpentine. I'm sure it would be just fine because I don't think he can taste things anymore.
Aye, then don't
He
waste
looks
a good
like he
brew
can.
on him, no. What else can we take for him?
You say good brew, and Glassrell is kind of looks at.
Whoa! Are you into the mead and ale and brew and beer?
I'm a mead man myself, actually. I'm a very
You just
big
said
fan.
the magic word.
I don't have any honey on me at the moment, but I could see if we can procure some and make some for you in a little while. It'll take time.
that would be-
A good brew takes
Oh yes,
time.
we could set it up back at Miss Kettle Whistles. It'll be wonderful.
Kettle whistle. That sounds
Uh,
like
where
a
is
good
that?
idea.
Kettle bottom, kettle whistle. Kettle
Oh,
whistle.
you got it
right?
right.
Yes.
That's correct.
Oh yes, what do we say? She is our landlord, our landlady, Miss Kettle Whistle. She makes a mean stack of pancakes for mornings.
I haven't had pancakes since I was a wee lass. We'll have to try that one. Have you
Well,
ever
you
had
need to
pancakes?
come by for breakfast one morning. It'll be wonderful. Have you eaten yet?
She considers saying no just to get another meal in. I could have a scuffle more after a while.
Well, perhaps tomorrow morning we can go. I'm not sure if she's still cooking. Of course, usually if you show up hungry at Miss Kettle Whittle, she just starts cooking right away. It's a wonderful thing, really.
Well, I mean, she does because we stay there. No one can show up. I mean, you have to come with us.
Oh,
I do
don't
believe you
know.
just invited us to go with him. And
yes,
you?
of course. Yeah.
He elbows him.
I mean, well, I stay there too.
Hey,
Oh, yes,
Both share a
we're
house.
oh, your
The
roommates.
lady's got a whistle. She's a halfling. Very lovely.
Is there anything else we need to do here in Zobek? Or you all have just arrived, or we probably need to find you a place to stay as well.
We
We just
need
arrived today.
lodgings.
Or do you need to find other things? He looks at Rowan, having watched this whole thing that she just did on the table. Do you know anything about void magic, my dear?
Void magic.
So Rowan, you know, you've heard stories, of course, of the outer darkness from which Wotan originally stole the knowledge of the runes. Most creatures who are touched by it are corrupted, are taken by it, and it is dangerous magic. You know that it is inimical to life and even existence in many ways, and the practitioners, the cultists who learn the sort of blasphemous syllables of void speech can, with just those words alone, cause terrible things to happen to people and things around them. And you know that some of the greatest dragons, some of the first and most powerful dragons of Midgard, they flew far into the darkness between stars, and they lost themselves in many ways to the outer darkness there. It's basically bad news start to finish, but it's incredibly powerful, and it can do things easier, faster, or even more possibly than conventional magics can.
I don't know what exactly you want with the void. And that's magic. It will corrupt you. It's powerful, but at what cost?
That is what I fear. It is, I believe, what we are up against, though. And he sort of points to these brass sheets.
Do you bring one of them out?
Yeah, I'll bring one of them out.
Okay. So he pulls out this kind of largish square, not quite square, just slightly off rectangular sheet of hammered brass. It's very thin, and it's inscribed with these horrible glyphs in these great paragraphs and these strange arcane eldritch diagrams, and the brass is pitted and blackened in places. You can see that it's corroded and corrupted, and the cloth that he's had wrapped around it has actually begun to sort of brown at the edges and is becoming threadbare.
You don't want to look at it for very long, that's for sure, and it looks like I need to get another cloth for it. It corrupts everything it touches. I can't tell. The Arcanum, the Collegium does not have much information. We don't know how to counter it.
So you guys, I assume you've been asking around and looking for resources on that,
yes.
Glaz?
Yeah, no, Glaz would have been... Glaz, he asks anybody everything. Just...
Hey, Glaz, what you working on? Oh, it's very fascinating. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so...
I probably would have started with the diviner, with the master diviner, and even if the master diviner might have heard that he was looking into such things, to assure the master diviner that no, he's still a geomancer.
So Rudwin Whitstone would definitely have checked up with you if you went to him, or if he got wind that you were, and probably everyone in the Collegium knows that you have these things if you've talked about it. It makes a lot of people equal parts excited and nervous. The diviner would have checked up with you and kind of made sure that you were okay, and after satisfying himself that you're, not diving into actual void magic and twisting yourself, then he'll kind of back off a bit. But yeah, you haven't come up with any promising leads as of yet. Got it. Just wanted to check in on where you were at with that in your head. Continue.
Yeah, and Glaz would be very careful about all of this because he is seeing the Dread Walker, something that could move a Dread Walker, and having felt the power of the Shadow Road and knowing that this was somehow blocking all of that power has him very curious, but probably more concerned than curious. So, and having seen what it did to the table with just the one little rune that Kari did, I mean, so it's not like he's just like, hey, it's white magic, everybody have some. I mean, he's very, he's very much
being a little more discreet
like reveal
about
the
it,
whole.
or
I'm sorry.
Okay, being a little more discreet about it.
I think it's Glaz levels of discreet, so that's
okay.
But I think what I'm saying is that whenever he's studying it, I think he never just like whips one of these out. He probably just pulls back little portions of it to try to study, but knows that when you look at it in its complete form, that's when it sort of has its power and begins to suck you into it. Probably had some close calls, but.
Yeah. So even that little bit that he showed you, Rowan, on the brass sheet, you really those glyphs. It's like they slide off of your understanding like oil on water. You can't really make any sense of them, but looking at them, you can almost feel them begging you to read deeper and read more and to understand and to know. And you hear this like ringing in your ears, maybe like might happen if you suddenly exerted yourself. And your blood pressure kind of spikes up from that. You have this uncomfortable pressure and ringing in your ears after looking at that sheet.
Put that away. I will not read it.
Yes, I do not recommend it at all, but this is what we face. If it is somehow connected to your vision, the Black Oak, the Dread Walker, and the Void, the place of the ancient dragons, as you spoke of.
Have you ever heard the tactic, know thy enemy?
Know thy enemy, but also do not let yourself be tempted by your enemy.
Oh, I ain't tempted. That's him either, I don't think.
These runes beg to be read. I will not look at them, but I think maybe you might find some information, or hopefully some information, were you to seek out more of Wotan's tongue, some more of his church. He did steal the runes and the knowledge from the Void. He might know something, and well, someone who's not simply an old raven woman might know more.
I mean, there's a temple district here in Zobek. Are there temples to the northern gods here?
I mean, there might be small shrines. Wotan has worship, and his worship is represented outside of just the Northlands. So it is entirely possible there's a small shrine to his worship somewhere here. You haven't really looked.
Perhaps I know not of a large temple. Here it is mainly to clockwork lady Rava, mainly to Rava, but perhaps we could go to the temple district and see if we could find some followers of Wotan who might be more learned, as you suggest.
That's not a bad idea.
So, Temple District, Folkhouse, and then pancakes. Is that our order of business today?
That sounds good to me. Well, for lunchtime, she usually does the waffles, but...
Waffles, and you can feel the holes with the honey, the whole top?
Sometimes
yes.
she puts chicken on it, and it's really good.
Chicken eye. That sounds so good, like a salty and sweet mix. Very nice. Very nice.
All right, so you
We
guys
need to
are
pick up on the way
taking your
back.
lead and heading to the Temple District to go and see if you can find worshippers of Wotan?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay. All right. So as you guys are on your way out, the young woman at the podium, at kind of the sort of information desk, sort of you might call at the entrance to the library, she reaches out and says, "Oh, Glass, here I have something for you."
Oh, yes.
She shuffles through her papers and pulls out a little slip of parchment, and she said, "Model dropped this off for you," and hands you the parchment. Model, is one of the Kobold apprentices. He is a alchemist, or perhaps a student of transmutation magic, and he's called Model because his scales have all been, many of them have been discolored by all the chemicals and strange substances he works with, and some of his experiments occasionally go awry.
Oh, Model. How is he doing? Did he look well?
Oh, sure. He smelled a little weird, but that's normal for
Well,
Model.
that's pretty standard. So he's probably up to something interesting. Well, thank you very much. So we'll take it and take a look at it.
Okay, so you open it up, and you can see in this, the handwriting is kind of hurried and sloppy, and it has a peculiar mix of some draconic influenced characters as well as trade tongue common, and it reads very simply, plates, question mark, painted man might know, Black Lotus, and Black Lotus is underlined.
Okay. Got it. Oh, well, we might have a lead after all. We will add it to the list, perhaps after waffles. Temple District, I assume, would be the place where to go. Mr. Rowan.
Yeah, if you want to go, if you want to go check
from here, are you? Do we need to get you are there like I can't think what they're called, the little people who carry two wheels, people run between the front of them.
Or
they're like little rickshaw type carts or things for people.
I mean, there are carriages that you can hire that travel like taxi style around the city. So yeah, you can absolutely hire a carriage, or for all of you, you definitely want a full carriage.
Yeah, it is quite a ways other side of the city. In fact, shall we get the carriage? Sort of looking to Rowan.
I would hope that wasn't muted. I can't walk very far. It's already been such a long day.
Yes,
My
if you come in
bones
from the
are
docks, I'm sure you've
old.
already hiked quite a bit. Let us get a cart, and Glaz will summon a cart to take us, because across the city, I think is like it's a ways, right? Temple District's like the whole other side, right?
I think so.
Yep.
Yeah, because it's over by the Gear District. Yeah, by the Southgate.
Yep.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah,
And remember that the directions are off because it's
it's
north
sideways.
Right,
north is to the right.
Yep. North on the map is always to the right, as they say. So if you guys want to go to the Temple District, it is all the way on the other side of the city, up against the south wall. Now, Zobek isn't that big, but it is a long walk, and it's starting to get up into noon and a little bit more heat of the day. It is actually, it's been a couple of months, so it's probably only barely late spring anymore. It's starting to get into summer, so it's starting to get a little warmer and more humid, particularly after the rainstorms like you've been having. So you guys can flag down a carriage, no problem, and have them convey you from the Collegium District to the Temple District. So is there anywhere in particular you want to go, or are you just going to kind of search to see if you can find Wotan worshippers?
I'd probably search.
Yeah, just going to go and check it out, maybe ask for directions, or just kind of walk and see what you can see.
Yeah. I'll talk to locals as I'm walking around the Temple District when we get there, seeing what information I can find out, and then kind of like scouting around And then if I find something out or if I locate it, I'll get on Puff Puff and ride back to everyone.
Okay. So you guys head out there. The main temples you're going to find are to Lada, the golden goddess, goddess of healing, love, and mercy. Rava, the goddess of gears and clockworks. Ninkash, the goddess of beer. No kidding. There's a large temple to Eurilla and Porvit, the green gods, the twins. They're one of the older gods, older elvish gods, who are actually still worshipped generally across Midgard. So they're gods of fertility, wealth, forests. They have kind of a dual portfolio there. There's also a large temple to Perun, the Lord of Lightning, and there's some suspicion that this might be to the north, to our Northlanders. Perun, once you hear about him, it sounds like a mask of Thor, so probably just worshiping Thor by a different name. Battle and thunder, and you guys know that music. The other main large temple you'll find is Voland, the Lord of Fire, who is a smith, forge, and marriage god, and that's one of the larger dwarven faiths that are represented here in Zobek. And there are a myriad of smaller shrines and littler temples, but those are the big ones that are kind of scattered across the city. And I'd say after a couple of good hours searching through the temple district, with particularly with Cloak and Puff Puff doing some outriding away from you guys to sort of increase your search area, it doesn't look like there is any sort of organized worship of Wotan here.
What manner of backwoods town is this?
I mean, the bacon that we had earlier was definitely a little overcooked. I should have known. They didn't have a temple for Odin here, but that's all right.
Maybe start a temple?
Well,
I wonder if there's any small groups. Maybe
I was going
we can
to say, yeah, but perhaps, but I know you are looking for someone who is of great esteem. I'm not sure if we're going to find someone of greater connection to Wotan than yourself.
you give this old bird too much credit. But maybe we can ask him what he has to say about the void magic.
Cloak, from some of your dealings in Zobek and the time that you've been here, you know that there, in addition to smaller saints and lesser gods who are worshipped, there are also some shadier religions that are kept quite on the down low. For instance, you suspect there's probably a reasonably widespread cult of Mammon, the archdevil of greed, that lurks throughout the richer quarters of Zobek. And you guys know for sure that there's at least a shrine to Morena, the Red Maiden, hidden somewhere in Zobek. There are probably lots of other smaller faiths like that. One of them that you do know about that's not so much hidden is the worship of Kors, the sun god, because there are even a small member of the Order of the Undying Sun, which are a knightly order, and many of them are paladins who are sworn to the Oath of Radiance to fight against the corruption of Shadow and Undeath. But they're a very minor faction.
Can I roll persuasion as I'm talking to people to see if I'm able to gather any information
about worshippers of Wotan who might be around?
Yeah, like a place of worship for Wotan or worshippers.
Sure, go ahead and make me a charisma persuasion check.
All right, at advantage. All right, that was really good. That was at advantage. I rolled 19 plus 1, so 20.
20.
Oh, 19, right. 19 plus, 1. Never mind. 1.
Okay. All right, so the wheedling, cajoling gnome, you are able to determine that there are at least a few individuals worshiping Wotan. So it's possible that they have maybe a shrine where some of them meet up together, rather than just their own personal veneration, say in their home somewhere. But you think it might take you a while to search for it and locate it.
Well,
Yeah, I'd be like, yeah, I mean, as far as anything I found out, it just seems like a lot of people have like personal shrines to Wotan in their house. There's not like a temple here.
well, perhaps we should maybe follow up on Motto's lead then. He said that there's someone who might know something at the Black Lotus, but I'm not familiar with the Black Lotus. Are you?
What is this Black Lotus?
Cloak, you've heard of the Black Lotus. It's a curio shop in down near Lower Zobek, kind of where it meets the market district down by the river.
Oh yeah, that's by the market district. It's a shop.
What sort of things do they sell there? Do you know? Have you heard anything?
Black lotuses.
Just all Black Lotus, alright. Sounds like a very profitable business, sure.
Just
Yeah.
wall-to-wall beta Black Lotuses, yeah.
Well, that is just across the main thoroughfare here. We can have our carriage take us that way.
You could.
Yep, sure.
Yeah. You guys want to head to the Black Lotus?
Tilly's stomach growls. Aye, that's fine by me. Rowan, whatever you need.
So at this
there's
point,
so
you
much good outdoor food at the market district as well.
I knew
There
I
are
could smell
food carts
the
everywhere.
Yes, there is all manner of food. So it's probably at this point, after you've been kind of scouring the temple district, you are quite hungry at this point. You've sort of missed lunch, so you can scavenge some food from the street vendors in the market on the way to the Black Lotus.
And if you
There are
really
these
like,
fried dumplings that are filled with little meat. Don't ask what the meat is, but it's so good.
that is really good. But if you really want to check out a place with a lot of good brew, you should go check out the Sisterhood.
Aye,
Brewer
she's like
Sisterhood.
taking
Just
mental
give
notes
me
about everything.
meat.
Oh, okay.
Rowan, you can find some delicious meat on a stick, and you can find all manner of good food, whatever strikes your particular fancy. Easy grab and go kind of street food.
Yeah, Tilly points at the hut that looks like dumplings. Are these the dumplings you're talking about? Over
Those are
here?
the ones that.
Oh, yes, these.
She
They
gets a
are
whole bag of
delicious.
them and hops back in the cart. All right, now ready to go. All right.
Okay, so you guys head down to the Black Lotus. It is just kind of a plain storefront in a two-story building. There's a simple wooden door with a big street-facing window, and on the glass, printed in sort of gold paint or black letters with gold border, is in Common, and then below that in Draconic, and then below that in another language that you don't recognize, these very strange pictographic kind of characters, and it proclaims the Black Lotus.
I walk on in.
You push open the door, and there's a little teeny bell that jingles up at the top that the door sort of bumps into on the door frame when you open it up. So you open it up, and inside there's this smell that hits you. It's sort of a combination of old dust and spices. Just this melange of various different aromas that mix together. It's like almost like walking into a spice shop. You can't really pick one from the other. It just all kinds of blends into this heady atmosphere inside there. And you can see there are shelves and cases, and there's just all kinds of little things in here. There are little trinkets that look like they have little porcelain statuettes. There are little bits, little forged metal bits and carved stones. There are bundles of herbs hanging in glass cases in very orderly little rows with some handwritten labels next to each ones. Just like everything you can think of, any sort of little hole in the wall kind of curiosity shop. All kinds of stuff in here. And as you come in, you can see that there's a counter in the back that it kind of has a glass display case built into it. And there is an individual behind the counter. He's a very fat man wearing this silk robe, and his hair, which is black and kind of receding, is slicked back, and his face is painted white, and then his eyes have this black liner, and his lips are sort of picked out in this bright garish red. Think almost kabuki makeup. And he sort of perks up from where he's seated behind the counter and looks over toward the door and says in this sort of piping voice, but when he speaks, there's not any trace of an accent whatsoever. His tones are just kind of geographically or linguistically neutral, like a blank slate. And he says, hello, my friends. Please come in and welcome to the Black Lotus. Is there anything in particular for which you search?
My friend, a kobold at the Collegium, name of Mott, often smells pungent. Perhaps knows you and thought that you might be helpful in something that I am researching.
So he purses his lips and he taps this one long, kind of fine-boned, despite the weight he carries, finger against his garish red lip. And he says, Mott. Oh, you must mean Mottle. Of course. A delightful little fellow. He's been a wonderful customer. There are things that he requires for his experiments that I'm only too honored to help him find. I hope he is well.
Yes, apparently he's working on something new that smells just as good as his normal experiments.
Yes, I can imagine. I'm so very pleased he sent you to me. Please come in and make yourselves at home.
Can I roll perception?
Yeah, what you looking for? Anything in particular, or just kind of a general read?
General read of that, and kind of an insight on him as well, if I can do that.
Okay, which one do you want to do? You trying to read him, or are you trying to scan the place?
I'm going to hold my insight. I'm going to scan the whole place first.
Okay.
I'm going to wait for him to start telling us stuff before I give an insight roll.
Sure. Go ahead and make me a wisdom perception check.
I rolled a 12 plus 3, 15.
15. All right. So you can see, let's see, there's lots of shelves lining the walls. There are several freestanding rows of shelves on either side of the large room. You can see a double doorway at the back wall that leads to probably another area of the building. Is there anything in particular you're wondering about or wanting to know? You don't see anything like a secret door or anyone like lurking and watching you in the shadows or any of that?
Yeah, it's more what he has.
I'm sorry, it's not a door along the back wall. It's a beaded curtain hanging in a doorway.
Okay, and is it like there's the counter and then the beaded door is behind it? Yeah, more or less.
Okay.
So he's just. I'll just be looking around.
I'm sorry. It's to the side of the counter. It's not behind it. So you could theoretically walk up to it if you wanted.
Yeah. So looking around at the knickknacks and all that kind of stuff, I'd be like, and just walk in.
Like straight into the beaded curtain, or.
Yeah, but I'm also going to roll stealth.
Okay, go ahead and make me a dexterity stealth check.
And so I'm not trying to be stealthy. I'm seeing how the odds of him being distracted by talking with Glaz, he just doesn't notice me. So an 8.
An 8. Okay, so you just kind of beeline for the curtain, or are you trying to be more discerning about it?
Well, as he's like talking to Glaz, I would just be like walking around and like looking at stuff, and then notice like the curtain and just be like, and then just walk my way in there.
All right, so as you start to push through the beaded curtain, there's a pretty loud clattering as the strands of beads click and clash into each other. And he looks over and he says, please, I would prefer if you remain in the public display area of the shop rather than nosing around the storeroom. If there's anything you're looking for that isn't on the shelves, I will be only too delighted to help you. Merely tell me what you seek, and I shall bend all of my powers to assisting you.
I just thought it was another part of the store. My bad.
Oh, certainly. No. That is a simple misunderstanding, and there's no problem whatsoever.
Okay.
Glaz will. Is there anyone else in the shop other than us?
No. Other than you and this fellow who Model referred to as the Painted Man, no, nobody else.
I am doing some research. It is something that there seems to be quite a gap in the knowledge base here in Zobek, and quite a bit so at the Collegium. In our
his eyes sparkle a bit when you say that. He sort of leans forward, propping his elbows up on the countertop.
Oh, Glaz will lean forward as well, because now it's like it's like two scholars. So in our travels recently, we have bumped into. And he sort of leans over. It seems we have stumbled across a bit of void magic.
Oh, how scandalous.
Right, I know. I mean, it is horrible stuff. We watched it all but disintegrate the table right in the middle of the library. It was quite a scandal. We were very lucky that my good friend's kobold friend did not come and throw us out and rip up our library cards.
I am pleased to hear that didn't happen as well.
Oh, right. It would have been horrible. But needless to say, there is not much research anywhere. Now, of course, it makes sense. You wouldn't want to keep something that corrupts basically everything that it touches in one of the greatest collections of all of magical knowledge outside of Bimia. I am from Bimia. Because as all Bimian scholars do, how do you know scholars from Bimia? They tell you within the first.
Tell you about it. So he sort of narrows his eyes and he looks over you and he says, "Yes, I do believe you are."
So, I was wondering, as my good friend Model had suggested, that perhaps you might have some information about void magic, and perhaps even maybe something that was commissioned recently.
So the tip of his tongue kind of darts out over his lip, and he places his fingertips to his chest, and you can see that his fingernails are very skillfully manicured, and there's just this faint lacquer on them. It's not really colored, but it has a little bit of an iridescent sheen when the light catches it. And he says, "Well, there are many things that I know of, and anything I don't know of I can probably find. So what is it that you're looking for specifically?"
Well,
are you looking for information on some void magic spell you saw cast? Or have you found some sort of relic that you wish to know about?
A little of both.
Ooh, how deliciously fascinating. I don't suppose you have the relic with you. I would dearly love to see it.
Glaz will now do an insight check.
Sorry, what
because it's not so much that he knows whether or not someone's good or bad, it's whether or not someone's going to take his thing away from him, take his toy away.
Go ahead.
Rowan's getting close to the desk and is saying, "Looking but no touching."
He sort of makes kind of a little pout with his lips and says, "Oh, well, I suppose we'll see." All right, how'd you do on your insight check?
Just a 12.
A 12? He seems very excited. He seems it looks like he's almost pulling at whatever it is you need that he can help you with. You don't get the sense that he wants to take it from you, but he is very excited to see it.
Okay. Glaz will take out one of these carefully wrapped brass plates, and as he's done in the past, just sort of pulls back over one corner, just partially, and go, "I dare not reveal the entire inscription. without more knowledge of what all it could possibly.
So he looks down at the corner that you reveal, and he says, "Oh, I do so very much appreciate your concern, but I won't be able to tell you much from that mere corner. May I?" And he sort of gestures down toward the parcel on the table. He makes no move to pick it up.
Yeah.
He makes no move to pick it up or anything.
Glaz will allow it because, well, I think the second part of my insight would be, do I think that, especially with my new friend Tilly, that we could take him if we needed to?
I mean,
now magic users, I know. Yeah.
For all of your read on him, I mean, he just seems like a man who really enjoys good, rich food, and you don't get any sense of magical power off of him, but
okay. You never
if
know.
someone doesn't display it, that doesn't really put itself on display, if you know what I mean.
Exactly.
Tilly, what are you doing during this exchange? Just to check in.
Tilly honestly has been trying to make her way through the aisles of the store without knocking stuff over with her bit of side punch. And then once Rowan approached the counter, I think Tilly set aside her oogling, noggling over anything around and just paid attention to what Rowan was saying. And I believe as kind of a reactionary thing, as soon as the guy starts reaching forward, seeing how concerned Rowan is, Tilly's going to get prepared to make a noise and a ruckus to distract the guy if he gets too close to disrupting Rowan's request and not touch it.
Okay.
Like, I will knock stuff over in the store to distract him.
So he kind of reached toward it, but then stopped, and then is asking Glaz for permission to open it up and mess with it. Which...
I'll give permission, but one of the things I will also do, because I know that it thwarted it before, he does get the lantern out and is ready in case he needs to have the lantern and use the Heart of Fire to dispel whatever void darkness might emerge in the examination if he somehow activates it.
Remember, that was mostly with the Shadow Pearl, not so much with those things, but a little. Now, the magical light does have various effects, so it might be
right. I thought, wasn't in the library that I ended up dumping the. Well, it was because it was on a sheet of paper. Right, it burnt up the sheet of paper.
You burnt the paper and the runes that were like creeping onto the table.
Gotcha. Yep, never mind.
That certainly did that, and then, if you recall, it also sort of created
became a little elemental thing.
A corrupt fire elemental that you guys had to kill. Yes. All right. So you pull out the lantern, which I assume is the shutters are closed on it.
Yep, shutters are closed. It's just I have it handy. It's almost sort of just his own little.
So it's almost
piece.
Nonchalant, like you just sort of loosen
just
the
sort of
lantern.
set it
up. So
his eyes, getting in it.
His eyes, which now that you're up close, you can see his eyes are green, a very kind of odd shade of green. His eyes flick over to the lantern, note it, and then move back to the parcel. And so once you give your permission, he very carefully reaches down and begins unwrapping the cloth that hides the sheet. So those of you who are nearby, once again, you can see those blackened, blasphemous runes and sigils and diagrams etched into this metal page, and his breath catches and he says, "My word. Oh, this is beyond anything I could have hoped to see. I'm sorry, what is your name, friend?"
I am Glaz. Glaz is in Carnelian.
Glaz, it's such a delight to have you in my humble shop. This is may I? And he kind of reaches down toward the sheet. Like he's going to slip his fingers under it and pick it up. Yeah, what do you want to do?
I want to roll insight on what's going on with him when the runes come out, or the void stuff comes out.
Yeah, you can make a wisdom insight check.
6.
6. He seems very excited.
I mean,
as he reaches for it, I think Tilly's going to kind of lightly slam her hand against the side of a counter. Oh, God, sorry. I couldn't.
Rowan's going to insight.
Are you all right, my dear? He kind of snatches his hand back and looks over at Tilly.
Some of these things are very fascinating to look at. Like this little bit of jewel over here. It's pretty nice. Yeah,
yes, that was a very interesting piece that I actually acquired from a trader on one of the flying fortresses of Sikkim.
15 on insight for Rowan.
Rowan, so he is very excited, and it does look like he is going about his interaction with this artifact very, very carefully and respectfully, and he's not making any move without checking in with Glaz and seeing if it's okay. You get the feeling that he certainly knows something about this piece.
What is it that you know?
If I'm correct, I do believe I know what this is, and I am somewhat surprised only to see one of them. He kind of looks to you once more and kind of reaches toward the sheet.
Yeah, it's Glaz, and he's terrible at hiding anything. Well, I do have the other as well.
Oh, God damn it.
So when Cloak gives a little oath, the painted man tuts a little, and he looks over and he says, "No, please, my friend. I promise you nothing if not absolute discretion. I am most meticulous about protecting my clientele. You need fear no scrap of information passing beyond these walls. I give you my word."
That's not that.
That's good enough for Glaz.
Can I roll insight on that comment?
Sure.
I rolled a crit.
Nice.
Crit failed.
Nat 20. Nat 20.
I'm just teasing you.
Woo. What's your total?
That would be for insight 23.
He seems perfectly sincere. He seems that he didn't take offense to your trying to shush Glaz, but he definitely noted the concern there, and he sort of very much wants to set that at ease, and it seems like he's on the up and up, that he takes it very seriously.
So I would look at him and say, it's, like, I could tell that you're a man who works with discretion. That's fine. The issue is that
he sort of nods. Thanks.
I would say, this shit drives people crazy.
Certainly it does. I'm very impressed that you're all not stark raving mad.
That's because we saw our friend go stark raving mad for a little bit, and then we saw some dude with black teeth spit a bunch of shit at us, and his words made me feel dirty.
He was actually speaking the void tongue. Yes.
Oh yeah, no.
I'm most impressed. I'm most impressed that you were able to face down a void speaker and come away in one piece. You must be most formidable.
One of us did not make it out in one piece.
No, I am so terribly sorry. And he kind of folds his hands against his chest. I'm so sorry for your loss and for my gaffe.
Oh no! Yes. Anyway, yes, there are. In fact, we have both of them. We've also been very careful because
you have another one of these sheets. And so he did you give him permission to pick it up? I don't recall. You've kind of been cut off every time. Okay,
yeah,
right.
I did.
So he actually reaches down and scoops it up, and he actually looks at Rowan and he says, "I assure you, my friend, that this will be fine. I will not cause any harm to befall you." And he kind of waits to see Rowan's reaction to that.
As you say, but
thank you.
She's going to reach her hand out and just grab his wrist and say, "If any harm befalls any of my companions, or any of this leaves the walls, there will be hell to raise." And drops his arm as quickly as she took it.
His skin is very cold to your touch, like he has just kind of like naturally really cold hands, and he doesn't pull away from your touch, and he sort of blinks at your pronouncement, and he says, "I understand completely." And he very gently scoops up the brass sheet, and he looks at it, and he sort of traces his finger over the etchings and coos a little bit to himself, and then turns it over and looks at some of the etchings on the reverse side, and he says, "You said you have the other one?" And he sort of chuckles at that. "You realize that there aren't just two. These are pages of a tome. There are many."
These were the only two we were able to get of the... Was there 6, if I recall, or was there 8?
No, there were only 2. You took the 2 that were there. Like the
Oh, okay.
void
I'm
speaker
sorry.
had.
I thought other ones were destroyed when the whole thing went down.
Nope. He says, well, that's very interesting because these are pages from a very powerful work known as the Nullifier's Codex.
What?
Yes. It is a repository of I'm sorry, I misspoke. The Nullifier's Lexicon. The translation is difficult. It is a repository of a great deal of knowledge about the creatures and nature of the void, the outer darkness, and the ways one might call upon it through word or inscribed glyph. If the
It is a spell
entirety of
book.
Yes, very much so. It grants one knowledge of the void and its very language, allows one to call upon these words, the syllables that can reshape reality, creation, the very substance of it to your will. I'm even more impressed that you were able to wrest this from the one who had it.
Well,
You were very fortunate that it wasn't the entire lexicon. I dare say you wouldn't have stood a chance. And I mean no disrespect to your prowess.
we barely made it as it was. I think if he wouldn't have been so distracted of doing, well, what he was doing, we would not have fared as well.
So he very carefully sets the sheet back down on the cloth and kind of pats it with his fingertips once, and he says, "Thank you so very much for allowing me to examine it. That is a rare treat."
I see that you examined it and identified it fairly painlessly. Whenever I look at it, I get nauseous. Is there some warning that you have, or?
When you've looked at as many nauseating things as I have, it, well, for better or worse, becomes something of old hat, I suppose. Trust me, I will treat this with the utmost respect, as I do urge all of you to do as well, although given your behavior towards even this scrap of the book, I have little fear that you will trifle with it.
No.
Yes.
If you did wish to bend some of its power to your will, that is possible, although I do believe with only 2 pages of the lexicon, that power will be quite diminished.
Do you know? Well, there's a question that is important that we ask. Is the only way to thwart the magic of the void with magic of the void? It seems all but uncounterable by anything that I have researched.
Manifestations of void magic can indeed be countered. It requires a certain degree of expertise in abjuration magics, but it can be done. One needn't call upon the void to do such things.
But
it would certainly allow one access to a deep and wide reservoir of power, but one, of course, that does not come free of risk.
Right.
Do not
If one were
trifle with it.
If one were in
Quite
need
so.
of harnessing this power, what would one need to do to go about it?
Yes.
Not that I am interested at this point.
pages, He kind of places his fingers on the now rewrapped page. He closed the cloth back over the brass sheet. He says, "These pages represent part of, well, for lack of a better term, a magical artifact. It's possible that with a short period of study and attunement, one might be able to tap its inherent magic."
I'm not looking to do that right now, but it is good to know that it is here and not in someone else's hands right now.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. It sounds as though you wrested it from someone most ghastly.
Most, yes.
Yeah.
Well, is there any other way I may be of service to you? This has been such a rare visit.
Chili's falling into like food coma, leaning on the counter.
You can feel the bubbles.
Hey,
What
what she
would be the
said?
best way?
Where's it, Rowan? Before she even speaks.
Be the best way to contain this relic? This cloth is not doing anything.
Oh, very few things will. Anything in long contact with the manifestations of void speech will rot and wither and crumble away and blacken. But most curiously, the surface upon which the glyphs are inscribed will never crumble away completely, though they will corrupt. Isn't that odd? So, however you wish to contain it will be fine. You will likely have to replace whatever vessel or shroud you place upon it from time to time. I imagine that cotton, it appears to be, won't hold up much longer, perhaps a month at the most, before it disintegrates into fibers.
Well,
Plus, I have some wrappings that may help, some oilcloth, some leathers, but I think it would be wise if you give it to me to hold on to.
what
The
I was
sturdier
thinking,
the container, the better it will hold up against the void's corruption.
I was thinking of perhaps visiting the gear district and getting a lead folio to put them inside of.
Ooh, lead. That might be very intriguing to see what sort of effect it will have.
Thinly pounded lead, and slide them inside. Make a portfolio, because I assume that they're basically like copper sheets of paper, all but right.
Yeah, they're like brass book pages. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm kind of thinking of like almost making like a lead trapper keeper. But, not quite that, but basically just have someone maybe fabricate. I mean, heck, even Paula Everforge probably could do that. I mean, she makes armor, which do it out of lead.
That would be interesting. It would certainly deaden any magical emanations or attempts to detect it, which is prudent.
That was my thoughts as well. That no one who knew about it could.
Yeah, he leans forward and kind of glances toward the door and says, "It would be wise not to let certain authorities know that this sort of thing is in your possession. They take umbrage at manifestations of darkness, worship of certain deities and other beings. This would undoubtedly fall into their prejudices, founded or not."
Well, and could bring danger to the city. They would be doing their job. Well, anyway,
Absolutely.
Very much has been a pleasure to meet you. I am sorry I do not know you by anything other than the title that Motto had given to me as the Painted Man. Do you have a name that I can refer to you as? Or is your title...
That is indeed how I am known, and that is how I would be very pleased and honored if you would refer to me as such.
Oh, very good.
Why are you called the Painted Man?
Excuse me?
Why are you called the Painted Man, if I can ask?
Oh, I can't imagine. It's a nickname that stuck with me for years and years. And he smiles with his kabuki makeup mask. But if ever you find yourselves in need of the rare components for the making of your magic, unless I miss my guess, you are indeed a wizard, or if you search for some bit of lost or proscribed lore, know that I have the means to uncover it for you. Now, the more difficult it is to acquire, the higher the price will be, but that is simply the reality of economics, isn't it, my friends? And he kind of gives a regretful sigh.
So Glasgow, of course, as I am growing, I am learning. I'm a student at the Collegium, so I'm starting to bump into some needs for some specialized components. It has been a pleasure to meet you. And he reaches out to shake his well-manicured hand with his, cracked and probably dirt under the fingernails, rough, calloused stonehide trollkin hand.
So the painted man just kind of drops his hand into yours, very effete, and just doesn't seem perturbed at all at the state of your hand or anything that might be caked on it. And he says, "Oh, it has been the absolute delight of my month to meet all of you, and I do hope I'll see you again. I suspect, being adventurers as you are, you might run into the need for some specialized magical assistance now and again, and I hope you'll keep me in mind."
You buy stuff?
Thank you.
Certainly. Most certainly.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind. He looks at Glass. For the useless junk we find that's magical.
And Glass, sort of
magical
shakes
trinkets.
his hand.
Yeah.
Vigorously.
Magical trinkets, my little friend, are never useless. It is merely the art of finding the correct hands into which they must be placed.
Yes.
So it sounds like you guys are sort of winding down and going to take your leave of the Black Lotus for now. And so. As he kind of rests his hands on the countertop, and he says, "Farewell then, my new friends. Be safe out there."
I'm rolling insight on
try.
that.
Sure.
Fuck 5.
5. It really sounds like he's just, wishing you guys well.
Okay.
I'll roll inside on that as well.
Sure.
11.
What a nice guy.
It sounds very sincere, Rowan. It sounds like the way you'd sort of tell someone to take care, but he happens to have the read that you guys probably get into more trouble and danger than your average citizen, and so he's just sending his heartfelt well wishes with you.
Okay.
She's like trying to creep around things and not get over again. She leaves.
Sure. You make your way out, and you see little bits and bobs from that have a Northland style. You see things that from cultures that you don't recognize. You see things from various different countries. You see what looks like probably elven artwork. All kinds of different stuff in here. And you make your way out. There's another little tinkling of the bell as you open the door and step back out onto the streets.
I didn't want to sound like a fool, but does anybody know where that fellow was from? I'm not really familiar with a bunch of other accents.
No, you didn't sound like a gnome, so...
I mean, it's a little weird, but so was his makeup, so I don't know. Whatever.
He didn't sound like he was from the Western Wastes either.
Yeah, no, none of you can place his accent or any of that.
Okay. Can we know what race he was?
Oh, he's human.
Okay.
What was he? I'm just kidding.
He appeared to be human.
At this point, I look at everyone and I go, so pancakes or fuckhouse?
Yes, what's your next destination?
Food.
More food. Okay.
But we are very close to these silk scabbards here. Unless you are dying, we have more of it. We are here in the market district. We can get you some more meat on a stick.
I suppose we can find the Sleoden.
Okay. They had fruit though.
A little bit.
We can find the Sleoden.
All right, so you guys.
I smell a thick turkey leg on the way. I think maybe a market forward, maybe a stall a little away. I'll grab you.
All right. So once you're back out on the street, you turn your steps toward the north and heading towards Crown Square. kind of to the south of there before you get to the Cobalt Ghetto, up near the river. That's where you're looking for to take you to the Silk Scabbard, which is on the way to the Collegium District. So if you're trying to get back to Miss Kettlewhistle's house, the Silk Scabbard is indeed on your route, and that is where we're going to stop for this week. Yes, I'm sorry, the clock conspires against us. Thank you very much, everyone, for playing with me again. I love it. I look forward to seeing you guys every week. And thank you, lovely viewers, for joining us here on Encounter Roleplay. So why don't we run through once more, and tell everybody where you can be found. I'm Dan Dillon. You can find me on Twitter at Dan_Dillon_1. I love to talk D&D. And starting tomorrow, I'm going to be heading to Gamehole Con in Madison, Wisconsin. So if you're going to be at the convention, come find me in the dealer hall at the Cobalt Press booth. I would love to talk. All right. And everybody in the chat, make sure you do the giveaway that is running now. Type !loot. All right, Tall Squall, where can we find you?
You can find me pretty much all over the social media as Tall Squall, and you can see me on a couple other different games around. Monday night over at the Eberron game on Scraticus Academy, and DMing my own on Saturdays on my channel at 2:00. And on Thursday, we should be back with Wait a Second, Dude, our fun little stream where we're playing through Divinity 2. So come check us out and say you found us here on The World Tree Burns.
All right. Scarlet Moth, where can the people find you?
Hello, you can find me at That Scarlet Moth on Twitter and just Scarlet Moth on any other social media. I'm an artist, cosplayer, and D&D nerd, so you'll find me posting a bit of everything. And I love to talk with people about designs, art, D&D, all that jazz. So please come and talk to me. I do a show on Monday nights. Well, Monday mornings American time, Monday nights Australian time, over on Almighty Tales Twitch, which is just a new show we've started up with all Australian ladies, and we just had our first episode the other day. It was so much fun, and if you want to see me play a very different type of character to Rowan, then you can go and do that.
Cool. And McLoken.
Hi, I'm McLoken. You might recognize me from such films as Don't Trust Anybody and oh look, food over here. I don't know. I had a fun time tonight. I'm sorry if anyone got upset at how Cloak is not trusting of new people right away. But that's who he is.
I'm just getting very hungry from all this food talk.
I know. Fucking simply mentioned turkey legs, and I'm like, God damn it! I had turkey legs in my fridge, so
I had a fair turkey leg a couple of weeks ago. It was.
God, I love fair turkey legs. You guys can catch me at my show on Mixer.com/StoryQuest, where I run a weekly campaign of a D&D 5e Final Fantasy homebrew campaign that I've been making out of my brain, and then as well as on this show on Tuesdays. But I recommend people go check out Thursday nights here, same time, where Metamancer is running a not Call of Cthulhu, City of Mist campaign, and she's a fantastic GM, and you guys should all go check it out. It's a really great show. So
there's some really good people on that show. So definitely.
Thank you.
Definitely.
And last but certainly not least, Simply Jackson.
Hey, I am Simply Jackson. You can find me here on Twitch at Simply_JXN. I am a variety broadcaster. I'll play the WoW demo this week. I'll be doing a lot of art. I'm actually front page every Monday night for this month. Yeah. Super excited about that. Awesome. I play Tilly Ashbreka, our resident and hungry dwarf. She is not... I will say she's not trusting or untrusting. She's just being drug around as the bodyguard, essentially, for Rowan, she feels. So, Rowan says goes, and that's how it is. So. But it's been really fun. This campaign seems really fun. And for one of my first D&D experiences, I'm having a great time. So, thank you, Dan, for being such a good storyteller.
Oh, Thank you very much for playing. I'm really digging it. All right, so we have a winner for the dice giveaway. Congratulations to Despo, and thanks very much to the Encounter Roleplay sponsors for making all this possible. Of course, Cobalt Press for having us on here and getting us on to do the Midgard campaign setting on World Tree. Also to Fantasy Grounds, our virtual tabletop of choice here on Encounter Roleplay, and to whalengames.co.uk, as well as tabletoploot.com. Thank you very much to our delightful sponsors. And thank you all for joining us this week, watching and listening, and we hope to see you all next week. Bye-bye, everyone.